It was a wild ride under lights in Sydney for round one of the TFH Hire TA2 Muscle Car Series, framed by Hi-Tec Steel Framing.
Oh! What did he got him? No, no, no! This is heartbreaking.
Taking the very meaning of door-to-door muscle car racing to the next level.
Take a look at Steve!
Oh, what's he doing?
He's bored! How do you like your T-bone? Medium rare?
Josh Haynes evaded the carnage to take out top honours in round one.
2 wins so far out of 3. And the Haynes family very, very happy.
The teams have now travelled north to Morgan Park Raceway in Queensland, and there is no doubt round 2 will provide one hell of a show. Joining the fray is a stacked lineup including Legend Cars Australia, Formula RX8 and a whole lot more. Time to buckle up as we hit the loud pedal for round 2 of the Hi-Tec Super Series. Great to be back for round 2 of the Hi-Tec Oil Super Series, all the way here in Queensland. Of course, it's Morgan Park Raceway. We're just over 2 hours out of Brisbane. Jane McCarthy alongside me. Fantastic little track we've got here. The weather, well, it's a little bit gloomy out there. That could throw a few curves our way this weekend.
Over the last couple of days, the weather forecast has not been the greatest, but right here, right now, we don't have any rain, any rain coming in over the top of the race circuit. So yeah, as I said, the forecast was not good, but look, this place is just a little bit special, I reckon. It is a very, very cool racetrack, and the first thing we're going to see this morning on today's coverage will be the Formula RX8s.
Yes, we are. We're going to Formula RX8s, and let's get on board for a hot lap, though, with Justin Lewis. He took us around the racetrack a little bit earlier.
Okay, and here we are for a hot lap around Morgan Park in the Yellow Express number 50 Formula RX8. Let's go. All right, let's drop it down to third, into the first corner, down into second, where we throw a big flame out the back, and then back on the gas, and then a commitment into third gear, and then underneath the bridge. You've got to hold it flat here, otherwise you're nowhere. All right, back into fourth, and then easy down into third. Match the gears in the synchro, throw another flame, and up on the ripple. You've got to get into the gas nice and early here, and make sure you get wide, and set yourself up for the next corner. Let's see if we can catch the guy in front. All right, here we go, into second. Hug this one nice and tight, and then bring it right out onto the ripple. You've got to use every single inch of the road with these cars. Keep it in third, a little dab on the brakes, and again, use the ripple, and ease it out. You're going to now have to head down here and prepare for the biggest, fastest corner on the track. So we're going to have a little dab on the brakes, and then commit, and then back on the gas, all the way. All right, now down into third, I'll plug second here, and back on the gas, use all of the ripple, come back out into third, leave it in third. We're going to dab on the brakes just here, and we're going to eat these 2 corners right over the ripple, and commit straight out onto the straight, and then into fourth, and that's your lap at Morgan Park Raceway.
Always exciting when you get on board with Justin Lewis. We never know what's going to happen, and last year when we had the RX8s out on track, this is where he really stomped his authority coming into probably his career in the RX8s as well. So Justin Lewis will be one to watch out for today. Let's have a look at how the series calendar is going to unfold in 2024. Of course, we started things off under lights at Sydney Motorsport Park. Back there in April, we're here at Morgan Park Raceway for round number 2, but then we stay in Queensland, we head for round number 3, and of course, a big festival up there at the end of June 28th to 30th. That's going to be fantastic. For the first time as part of the Hi-Tec Oil Super Series, we're going to go to the Bend in South Australia as well, James.
Looking forward to that.
August, mate. The end of August, going to be beautiful weather out there. Back to the home of where we all started, Winton Motor Raceway, back in October 4th to 6th. And then I'm really excited about this one. It's obviously in Wakefield. Everyone knew it as Wakefield Park there, but it's now one raceway. So much they've done in the background to build that corner up and be able to go both directions and make a brand new corner. So it's going to be super exciting to go to one raceway. Now let's have a look at how the race schedule is going to form out for our live stream here at the moment. Qualifying of the Formula RX8s is the first thing we're going to see, and they are about to get out on track and get that underway. Then, of course, we've got the Track Attack Australia. It's the Nangkang Queensland XL Cup. It's round 3 for them. Their qualifying gets there. The TA2 muscle cars are back, framed by Hi-Tec Steel Framing. Of course, the TFH Hire on board for this year. Then it's back to Formula RX8 for race number 1. Formula V are out there. Little Volkswagen engines are going to be buzzing around there. They've been pretty quick. And the Queensland production cars as well for their first qualifying session around lunchtime.
Yeah, so we've got, it's a big lineup of classes here at Morgan Park Raceway. Queensland Touring Car Championship through the rest of the afternoon, back to RX8s, more Queensland production cars, QTCC, XL Cup, Replica Tours, and ending the afternoon with the TAT muscle cars framed by Hi-Tec.
Yeah, of course, we will swap over our coverage there to our live TV, and I'm really looking forward to the Kubota Super 6, which is going to be our top 6 qualifiers from the TFH Hire TA2 muscle car framed by Hi-Tec steel framing. The top 6 from qualifying is a shootout race, basically. The Kubota Super 6. That's going to be exciting to watch. But let's get on board now, qualifying for our TFH Hire Formula RX8s, and we'll see how they get around here. We're going to see them probably, I'm going to say the first lap we're not going to worry too much about. They're going to try and warm things up. A lot of cloud cover today, which is probably going to change grip levels out them slightly. It is a track of commitment, though, isn't it, Jamie, when you get around? There's quite a few corners where you're really on the edge of the tyre and trying to get some grip there and hard under brakes. This is going to be an interesting qualifying session, though, because there's a number of people at the front who are very, very close in practice times yesterday. Rob Bowden, Brad Harris, Van Tagato was out there as well. He's done absolutely fantastic. It's Van Tagiato. I
just wanted to hear you say it twice.
I had to go and see him because he did so fantastic in round number 1, and he's one of these guys that's come from a little bit of sim racing as well, and really got involved in this one here. So we will get on board, though, and of course we are on board with the number 4. Now, this guy is brand new, Connell. He is out there. Sim racing background, only the
sim racing background. Okay.
Second ever time in a real life 3D, 4D, 5-dimensional race car.
Where you can't hit reset.
You can't hit reset. And yesterday, he was in the top 10 when it came to times out there for
That's
practice. So we will wait to see how he unfolds. And no wonder we've got the camera on him, I think, today, because we want to see exactly how quick he is going to go out there.
So we're into qualifying here, and the really, really important thing about this place, Matt, is to get a good lap and qualify as high up the order as you possibly can. I mean, that's the end goal in qualifying, but the nature of this racetrack, it is quite a tough place to pass on. It's all about momentum, all right, and it's a very, very challenging racetrack. The 33 just having a wee moment there. That was Brock Payne and the TFH Hire Services machine. There's a couple of those out here for the weekend with Brett and his team from TFH making a big commitment to Australian motorsport across, I don't know how many classes.
No, I think you like to say Australian motorsport.
Yeah.
It's probably the best way just to cover that one off, isn't it? I mean, Payne, though, has been super fast in an RX-8. Really, I think when he gets behind the wheel of anything, he's had an opportunity to steer. But in the RX-8 series, we've seen him here in the Hi-Tec Oil Super Series.
I don't know what the window is. So all of these cars are on the Nankang tyre. All right, everyone runs. I would assume everyone's on a brand new tyre for qualifying. So there will be a window of maybe 3, possibly 4 laps where you need to get the job done before the edge of the tyre just sort of drops off performance-wise from being, straight out of the box as a brand new tyre. So these teams will be going out really hard as Payne is using all of the racetrack and more, getting that RX-8 very, very sideways as they work their way around this wonderful Morgan Park layout, and with the rain staying away. And I think the last time we spoke about that, Matt, you and I, because I didn't get to do Sydney, was Calder Park, where we really needed that rain to stay away.
We really did. Now, Steve Devjak's up the top of the charts at the moment with a 127.44, the only one to jump into the 127s. He was super quick when it came to racing in Sydney as well. We saw him go through the pack, an unfortunate incident where we seen him penalised, pushed him down a bit. Wait for him to really unleash, I reckon, this weekend and start his fight in the championship. Although he's got a few points in the background, this could be
notably for Devjak, he's actually fastest in all 3 sectors. Actually, we've got a red flag just coming out onto the racetrack, so there's been an issue somewhere. I'm pretty sure, yes, definitely a red. So that's we're only 5 minutes into this qualifying session, so what's happened here?
We'll have to find out.
Okay.
The number 42, that's
buried.
Unfortunately, he is in the sand and not going to, and that's Derwin.
Yeah. We'll definitely need a spade and a shovel to get that one out, so that brings out the red.
Thomas Derwent from the Maria Animal Hospital, Maria Muffler's entry there. That's unfortunate. And look, we've got some definitely some sponsors out the back there who are part of some machinery and civil equipment. We might need them to come and get this one out. I think at this point that's going to be a fairly long snatch strap, I think, to drag that car out.
So that's on the run down to 4. So off of 3, you can just see the recovery vehicle now coming down underneath the bridge. So that's where our commentary position is. So that's definitely in the first part of the lap. So he's obviously got it wrong under brakes. I think one of those marks was definitely Derwent's, and he has absolutely buried that RX-8 just about up to the axles. So there was no way that was going to get out. So they'll recover that and back into qualifying.
Well, let's have a look. We'll have a look at the replay here as he comes down under brakes. Just in the corner.
Oh,
that was a moment there, don't you? The heart stops for just a second there.
That was one of those
10-pin.
That was one of those 10-pin bowling moments where one of the TFH cars was going to get cleaned up big time. So he's got in there. He's dived down the inside and just locked up the fronts, and to the point that he was turned, it wasn't turning, it was locked, and it just sledged off into the gravel.
Well, I'm having a look at the flags moving around down there just to show you how much wind we do have coming across the track today. Very overcast conditions, of course. There is the prediction of some precipitation coming down. We might get some wet weather racing. We might get a little bit of that today. However, it does look like it's scooting around us, and fingers crossed that is what is going to happen, because everyone's watching the radars at the moment.
Hopefully it's rolled down underneath us. So I think the initial forecast said sort of around 10 a.m, which was pretty much about 25 minutes ago. So we haven't seen that. We've had a couple of light sprinkles about 4 o'clock this morning. For those staying out here at the track and camping at Morgan Park Raceway, said they had about a 5-minute shower at about 4 o'clock this morning. So, you know, the forecast 25 plus mil that was forecast hasn't happened yet. So.
Well, it looks like they're out, and the car's still running. That's a beautiful thing about these Formula RX-8s. I mean, I know they've got a team down there, mechanics. I know they go through and they flash the ECUs, put the tune in them at the start of each weekend, so they know everyone's on that playing level, like a level playing field, I suppose, for them down there. So, I mean, there's a lot of work going in the background to build this category up, but someone else who's a big personality here this weekend, Matty Max down in the pits. Let's cross down to him.
Dylan Thomas, you and I have been banging wheels in TA2, but you and I both started in Formula V, and you're here for the Formula V Nationals at Morgan Park. These cars don't look like what you and I first started racing in.
No, they obviously started off, it's a 65-year history next year. They started with old drum brakes, steering box, pretty rattly old thing. If you look in the steering wheel, they've, analog gauges, your phone dash for your stopwatch, and then you look at the more modern cars, and you've got like inboard suspension, you've got much more modern technology, better finishes, obviously more streamlined. Formula V's come a long way, and 65 years, they're still banging on pretty strong.
I don't think anything's changed as much as the cars, but the fun remains massive.
Well, as you said, we've been racing these for a lot of years, and I haven't done it for a few years, but the close quarter racing, it's hard to surpass how many cars you can get 3 wide into like fast corners, slipstreaming's massive. Really good fun cars to drive, and very economical, like probably about a tenth of the price of a TA2 for a weekend.
Always good to catch up with Dylan Thomas. I mean, this year he has put himself the challenge, obviously.
I heard about that.
He's our reigning TA2 muscle car champion, but he had the TA2 muscle car out in Sydney. Obviously, that's his home track. He doesn't live too far away, but he's decided he's going to get the Formula V out from Morgan Park, and I believe he's working on trying to drive a different car in each racetrack as we go around the country this year in the 2024 season. I mean, talk about challenges. He loves them, Dylan.
Yeah, well, as I said, he's the reigning TA2 champion and did a fantastic job in the CXC Mustang last year. But, he's got a lot going on. His young fella is a very, very good motocross racer, and they're looking to contest some racing over in the States, you were telling me, Matt?
Yeah, well, and they're looking at some of the national championships later in the year over in Perth. So he's doing a lot of travelling. He said the tow car's done about 200,000 Ks in 3 years.
Wow.
So they're doing a lot between Dylan obviously doing his racing and really getting his son involved in the motocross as well. So motorsports family there. Here we go. They're going to be a quick check under the car.
Well, these cars are supposed to weigh 1,360 kilos. I'm going to guess that's probably a little bit more now with there's a fair amount of sand, I reckon, up underneath that car in places.
Some people pay good money to have gravel spread, don't they?
Yeah, that's not the way to do it.
No, not exactly the way.
And if you've ever been involved or crewed on an open wheel race car and they do that, it is the worst thing in the world. to have to take the whole underfloor of those cars and get the vacuum, literally get the vacuum cleaners out.
Well, the difference is going to be we're all hovering around the 1.5 minutes to get around the track here in the Formula RX8. We've got just over 3.5 minutes left now. They've got an out lap. They've got to try and get some temperature back in those tyres and see if they can hit it pretty hard, because Steve Devjack at the moment, that 127 stands out over half a second in front of Brock Payne.
That's a big gap.
Super quick. Rob Bowden, who took out round number 1 of the championship in Sydney, he's in third position there with a 128.8, so he's another 8 cents of a second behind. So there's still a fair disparity between our top 3 at the moment. And I've got to look at Jeff Connell, who's in the number 4. We had our onboard cameras. Comes out of sim race, he's the 129.5. He's in fourth fastest at the moment when it comes to qualifying. That's incredible.
So we've got Ben Silvestro on screen in the number 85 machine. He's currently in the 10th position. He's just done a personal best to the first sector split at a 30.9. That's about a second off what Devjack's done. So Devjack's lap, which he set on lap 2, was very, very good. So the team's got to have the opportunity with that red flag to come in, maybe just adjust some tyre pressures and have another crack at it, because at the moment no one's really got anything for Devjack.
No, and you got to look at that, don't you? They would have gone out with a tyre pressure thinking they're going to do more laps and it will come to them. Now, a few less laps after that red flag, they might have adjusted that down in pit lane. Ben Silvestro there got some sector times coming up. Oh, he's just a little bit off the pace at the moment, still down there in 10th. We'll wait and see. Green sectors for him, though, as he goes
he's
through.
He's PB.
He's
So look for him to probably improve at the end of this lap. Now, this is where it gets really crucial. The momentum on that side of the track, over the back side of the circuit and up over the hill. See what lap he will do here, and goes to P8 with a 130.4510. So an improvement there for Silvestro.
Connell's getting around too in the number 4. I can see some green sector time.
He's just PB'd the 2 seconds.
Yeah, he's just trying to push on a little bit more. Wouldn't it be amazing to see him in the top 3 in his first time out in Formula RX8? Incredible start from him, and we see the number 42 is back out there and getting around. Looks like the gravel has dropped out. Thomas Derwin will get himself reset, and that looks like a personal best for sector number 1 too. So he already pushed the limits of the car. Hopefully there's not a flat spot on that tyre, because it was a little bit of a lock-up. I don't think it's going to be enough to really feel. It might be a slight vibration there, but we'll wait and see if they change those tyres before race number 1. Oh, they're going to push that turn. This is turn number 3, and I love that shot. It is full commitment. Hug the wall, come out the other side. You come over a crest.
It's blind.
Yeah, and you got to look at that. In racing terms, I think everyone's going to be going fast. If something happens past you, you're going to get time to see it and do something about it. But as you're coming over, you're not seeing what's happened down in turn number 4, and you're just waiting for that opportunity to see if you can settle the car down, and that is an overtaking area on this track.
All right, so Devjack's just pulled the pin, so he's just cruising around at the moment. He's parked on a 127.4490. Is comfortably fastest by 6 tenths. Like, that is a big gap. So he did a very, very good job early on. A little bit of understeer that turned into a little bit of exit oversteer there for the number 51 machine, Jason Gaylor, in that green and black RX8. Gaylor is currently down in the 19th position. See if anyone else is on a flyer.
Well, Justin Lewis looks like he's got some personal bests. Oh, well, he did have some times up there. He's actually at the moment, but he's pulled out.
Both Lewis cars are currently on pit lane, so they're maybe looking to do a tyre bleed and just see if they can have another crack.
15 seconds.
Well, they're not going to get another crack. They're in the pits.
They've decided that's where they're going to be.
So Justin Lewis in 5th. The second of the Lewis boys in 8th. Silvestro's dropped back to 9th.
Jason Gala will come across. He will get a chance to get another lap in there. Here we go. Oh, there we go. This one's going to be fun. Let's see how they all go. Good to see that our race is back out there.
Brock Payne's on a bit of a flyer. He's just PB. He's fairly early into the lap, so he's on the other side of the circuit at the moment as the 15 goes through. So Bowden in the 3rd position in the G-Technic.
He's not going to be able to improve on that one. He did go 0.73 at the end, 128.73. It was a 28.8 before, so he's gone a tenth faster. They actually had to change a hub on that car yesterday. It's cracked around where they bolt the brakes on.
So Derwin currently in P7, but having caused the red, that would more than likely be a position grid penalty, I would think, for the race 1 grid.
That sounds like a job for the driver standards observer. He'll be into that one. Pulls into pits, knows that lap's not going to be on. All right, here we go.
Payne was trying hard because he actually dropped the wheel off coming up the hill and goes P2, stays P2 went 128.88, but he's already sat there on a 128.0610. So that consolidates number 2 position for the number 33 TFH RX8. Bowden in 3rd in the 15. Connell in the 4th. That's a fantastic effort, and we're on board with him now, so he'll be pretty happy.
It's got to be a great start, doesn't it?
It's just the second race meeting with these guys.
Yeah, the second race meeting, yes. So, yes.
Wow.
So new. Very different when you've got so much going on. I mean, in the sim world, I know how much they can simulate now, what you can buy, how much it is a simulation, but it's different when you're out there on track, and we're going to see some really changing conditions, I think, today, because if this does blow over, we might see some sun a bit later when it comes to race 1, which will be different again.
We're just looking at the flags there. That's definitely picked up the wind in the last even 10 to 15 minutes. And that wind direction is a little bit different to what we had here yesterday on Friday for practice day for all of the classes as well. So a solid field of 20 RX8 out there. We lost one of the drivers, car 38, yesterday here in practice, Ross Forbes, with a big crash underneath the bridge. The team reckoned that something actually broke on the car as it's got out turning left under the bridge, and it's just turned hard left and fired it into the wall and damaged both ends of the car. So unfortunately that was them out for the weekend.
Let's have a look at the results from the TFH Formula RX8 qualifying session here this weekend. Steve Devjack will lead us out in the number 1. Then it's Brock Payne, Rob Bowden, our championship leader, in 3rd. Jeff Connell, the newbie, in 4th. Then it goes back to Justin Lewis. Van Tokiato, Thomas Derwin, Terry Lewis, Ben Silvestro, and Jamie Canellis will round out our top 10. And it always takes a little bit of time to get through a Van's name, doesn't it? Desmond Collier in 11th, Arden Philippi in 12th, and goes back to Brent Thompson, Liam Hall, Shad Hassan, Jason Galla, Jacob Marr, Dominic Caminiti, Stacey Vickers back in 19th, and Dominic Graziani in 20th. So that looks like our 20 Formula RX8s out on track. Yes, like you say, we did have an extra one there to start the weekend off. Let's have a look at some of our Hi-Tec Oils highlights from our qualifying session out there. Now, Steve Devjack did his time very, very early. This was the moment, though, where we had a red flag throughout the race. Unfortunately, the number 42 this time with Thomas Derwin. Went and got himself beached out there, so everyone come into pit lane. Maybe a couple of minor adjustments made on tyre pressures, like you said, and then we unleashed them once again.
Yeah, I'm not sure on a red flag if they're actually allowed to make those adjustments, but anyway. No one really improved drastically with the resumption, and it was Devjack really doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, you see Rob Bowden. He's been fantastic coming out of racing BMWs normally in the under 2 litre class. And, we know it's only a 1.3 litre 13BE rotary, but it goes a little bit faster than the BMW. A little bit more expense, I suppose, when it comes to these things. But a great category to get in, especially if you want to get into some grassroots racing. I mean, they are an RX8 platform. They get out there, they're a standardised motor. You do some adjustments to go racing, some safety gets put into them, and we unleash them on the track.
It's been fantastic racing.
Yeah, we see some fantastic stuff. We'll see how the Lewis brothers go this weekend. I know, Justin, we got on board with him a little bit earlier, didn't we, as he took us around the track here at Morgan Park Raceway. It's a fantastic facility, and you can see the breeze is still coming across. We'll have to wait and see whether that precipitation starts to make its way in. We'll wait to find out. In the meantime, let's head down to Matty Mack to talk about some legend cars.
I'm here with Tony Ward from Legend Cars Australia. Welcome, Tony, to Morgan Park.
Thank you, Matt.
This is a category that I've looked at on the sidelines, and they just look like a ball of fun. And the buzzword around motorsport right now is bang for buck. This looks like an awesome category.
Yeah. Well, look, we're definitely ticking a few boxes with the bang for buck. We're one of the cheapest categories to run throughout the year, but you've got a field of very competitive races. A lot of the drivers have had a lot of experience in other categories, and they've come back to basically have some fun, enjoy themselves, but they also want to race hard. We've catered for, I suppose, an experienced racer that doesn't want to spend too much and wants to get out 5 or 6 times a year, leave the stress at home and get out with a bunch of friends, work together and enjoy the weekend, and we've definitely done that.
The youngest driver you've got here this weekend 15?
15, yeah. They start at 14 with us now, yeah.
And the oldest is 72.
Yep, 15 to 72, yeah.
Fair spread.
We've got the Tate family bring 4 generations along, granddad right down to the grandkids. I would suggest the 72-year-old is probably not going as hard as the 15-year-old out there, but definitely having as much fun.
You were saying to me earlier, you could land one of these cars from the United States into Australia.
Under 40 grand, you'll be set up, complete, ready to go, ready to race. We register the cars ourselves in Australia. We do our own scrutineering on the cars, so we've got our own tyres that have to be put on, and then off you go.
And they're not slow.
208 down Eastern Creek Straight, I believe.
And when you're sitting that far off the ground?
Yeah, they're little. Yeah, you're 100 mils off the ground, doing over 200 k's down that straight, and because they're little and they're a sequential gearbox, being a Yamaha 3-cylinder motorbike engine, the box it feels like you're in a supercar, you know. And being so low to the ground, I'd say that that speed's probably exaggerated a little bit for them, but I suppose that's the fun.
The top 6 in your category was covered by a tenth of a second.
I think the last race meeting, 5 laps in, we've still got a train of 10 cars at the front. One race we had about 8 different leaders at Eastern Creek. Race 2, I believe the person coming 4th around onto the last straight ended up winning due to the slipstream. These cars are really vulnerable to the slipstream. They only weigh 500 kilos, so you come out of that slipstream at the wrong time, you'll go backwards. You come out at the right time and you'll slingshot through. And even here, I think the first practice session, we had the top 10 that was 2 tenths between the top 10 here at Morgan Park.
This circuit, I reckon, is going to suit them beautifully, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, we've really been looking forward to Morgan Park. It's the perfect track for these little cars, so we're hoping we have a good one, and thanks very much for putting on a great event.
Always great to hear from Tony Ward, isn't it? He does a lot of work behind the scenes, Tony, and he always has a parts truck here as well, so they can repair these cars and keep them out on track. But
I have a question for you as the XLs are out on track. All right, how many Legend cars have been produced by the company that makes them over in America?
I'm going to go... There's got to be over 100,000, surely. Worldwide.
You've definitely gone high on that.
Yeah, come on.
It was 9,000, which I think is actually a pretty impressive number nonetheless, but yeah, you've gone way, way high on that. I'm never going fishing with you, I'll tell you that.
No, they're always massive fish.
So that includes the Bandolero cars, which is a different bodied car along the similar lines, and notably in America, Braxton Bush, Kyle Bush's son, has been racing those over there. But yeah, 9,000 cars have been produced out of the Legends factory in the USA. That's amazing. How many Hyundai XLs have been made?
Oh, a lot more than
No, I don't know that one. I don't know that one. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely more than
the hardest part you got now is we've chewed a few of them up.
There's about
these 2 doors in our rare car.
There's about 9,000 of them just running out of Queensland.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Track Attack XL. So this isn't the national series. This is a Queensland-based series where a lot of the drivers come out from to contest the national series through later on in the season. Tyler Collins is out there in the #1 machine, and Matt, I don't know about you, but that last race we called at Calder Park to conclude the XL series with Jalen Rowbottom and Tyler Collins going at it for the championship. They were tied on points going into the final race. Whoever finished ahead of the other car in absolutely appalling conditions was one of the best races I have seen for a long, long time. Like, they may be getting a little bit older, but for a starting category, to get the kids out of karts, if you want to go tin top racing, they are a fantastic category to go motor racing in.
Yeah, look, I think they can get involved. They can build these cars on a relative budget. It's great to have the Nangkang Queensland Series up here at Morgan Park Raceway. It's probably a great little track to showcase these cars, because it's not about huge horsepower on this track. It's about how aggressive, I suppose, you want to be around here and your lines when it comes to Morgan Park Raceway. You know, when you look at it from a overview shot, it doesn't look like a massive track, but when you get out there, it's just under 3 kilometres long. So
that's a great shot. You can see how much wheel work with those brightly coloured gloves with the 125 William Wallace. You could see how much wheel work he was having to do down the backside of the circuit on the run up the hill. What did that just shed? It looked like a bit of the underbody.
It's just weight reduction. As long as it passes the scales when it goes out, right? Is that how it goes?
So anyway, these are a fantastic car, and so if you've been watching the supercar stuff lately, you would have seen Chaz Mostert make reference at the last round in Perth that the highlight for them coming up next weekend is running in an event at Queensland Raceway called the Clippy Cup, and it's a charity deal. They turned up with 2 XLs, Mostert, Will Brown, the young Kiwi Ryan Wood. And so they've turned up in Chaz's GT4 Transporter, the Super B double, with two Hyundai Excel race cars for this charity event, and they had a ball. They're some of the funniest videos you will ever see. But yeah, they are a fantastic category.
Here we go. It's Patterson leading us at the moment, but Boylan, as you can see up on our screen, is really pushing in the number 80. Now we're seeing two purple sectors come through. We'll just wait to see how this lap time goes underway. Boylan really trying to challenge. He was only a couple of tenths in this one.
Here he is now on screen, and he's hustling in the Fuchs Oils number 80. So he's gone fastest of anyone in the first sector. Down to the line, can Boylan go to P1? Yes, he does, with a 133.105. Patterson with a 133.250. Now, we heard the Legends guy saying how close things have been. The Excels will be very, very similar.
They always create a similar style of racing there. It's exciting. We're seeing going 3 and 4 wide into some corners. We'll have to wait and see how it all unfolds. Tyler Channing in the field as well at the back there. Obviously, his dad racing in the TA2, but he's been racing in the Toyota 86 series. So he raced in the XLs last year. So just out for some seat time here this weekend, enjoying the Nankan Queensland series. Now, he's only been 1 year racing on 4 wheels. Like 12 months.
Wow.
That's incredible, because obviously motocross background.
And for those familiar with the category, that's the car that Jared Hughes has raced previously, now running in Super 2 in the AC Dalco colours. Brett Parrish, former series champion in the number 54. You're not going to miss that one on the screen, are you?
Yeah, it's just gone up into 4th position as well, so just managed to get himself up 1 position when it comes to qualifying sessions.
Arguably, there's probably not anyone more experienced in the class. This will be Darren Whittington in the 333. Everything Fleet XL, another very experienced racer in the XL category. He's currently P7, which he maintains there. He's in the 133.9, so about 8 tenths off, and the top 10 currently covered by just 1.2 seconds.
What I really want to know is, when we're at Sydney Motorsport Park for the National Series, for round 1 of the Hi-Tec Oil Series, it was like sign bingo. They took out every sign but the Hi-Tec Oils battery, the Hi-Tec battery sign. They did every other sign. We're going to get this weekend. Oh, no, he's down on the dirt too. Kobe Tucker.
Get it back on terra firma, lad. That was a very, very big moment. It could have been a lot worse than it was. It was sliding sideways in the dirt and the grass up towards turn 1 and 2.
There's more than one way to approach turn 1.
But
not that way. No, that is definitely not on the list.
No.
Oh, there we go. Tyler Chatty is just going to get himself another lap around there in the 118. I mean, we'll get a replay of this one, though, as it's a bit of a heart-stopping moment. Comes down the inside. You can see it unload the back, doesn't it?
It wasn't getting stopped, and it just started bouncing around on the brake. It didn't actually lock one, and then he tried to get it back on track at 2, and that shows you how tight that second turn is. Josh Richards having to take avoiding action there in the 557. Richards actually P3 so far in qualifying, with just over a minute left to go.
Well, let's have a look at this qualifying session. Boylan still up the top in the number 80 there, and just leading by just 15 hundredths of a second in this qualifying session. Now Patterson is in the pits. Looks like with only 51 seconds left, not going to be able to get a lap in either. So I think Patterson's just happy to sit there in second position.
Yeah, no one's really sort of lighting the boards up at the moment. Whittington's just hit 3 PBs, but he's still back there in the 33.7, so P6. Richards doesn't go quicker. He's currently P3 with a 33.41.
Matthew Boylan, because he's got 3 purple 6, a 132.99, so just extends that small lead. Doesn't need to, with only 17 seconds left in qualifying, but still pushing the car at the moment. So Collins has just gone to number 2. He has slotted himself in there as well. So Patterson going to the pits early. I don't know if there's a problem
he
with that car.
He left that late, didn't he? Tyler Collins, the current Australian champion in the number 1 Zenith machine. There's Parrish. So Parrish looking for a top 6. He's currently P5. Went PB to the first sector. Has not gained in the second sector. And he's got, obviously, the 127 lined up in front of him, Luke Rinaldi, who's very, very quick in his own rights. See if Parrish can improve. Goes to a 33.42, but doesn't improve in position. So improves in lap time, doesn't improve the position.
We'll wait for the last couple to come across. The 98.
Jackson Cooper.
take the checkered flag. Did not see him move back in 16th position for qualifying.
T333 going through there.
I reckon that's going to be Liam Ryan Adidas going through at the moment.
We've got 2 333s out there.
Yes, well, on the side of the cars, but not in our timing. So someone's had to forego their
Okay,
normal
so
number.
Darren's gone to 33. Yeah, okay.
It's all right. We'll see the last couple of cars get their final laps in. The 89 just crossing over the line there, and just seeing if there's a. I think we've gone to a 98 maybe on that one.
Again,
We're moving some numbers around here on the side of the cars. I've had to change a bit. Tucker there will finish in 10th position. Got some personal best sector times there, but unfortunately did not improve on that 10th fastest qualifying session.
So Boylett and Collins, as we got the 125 off after the checkered flag, Boylett and Collins actually set their best lap on lap 5. Usually with these cars that say QR, you've probably got about a 3-lap window to really make it work. So that's a good effort to have their fastest laps on their last lap, and Brett Parrish did exactly the same thing.
Well, let's have a look at the Nankan Queensland Excel Series round number 3 qualifying session, and the number 1 goes to Matthew Boylett, followed by Tyler Collins in the second position. We'll be alongside him at the start, and it's Caleb Patterson, Joshua Richards, Brett Parrish, Luke Rinaldi, Darren Whittington, Tyler Cheney, James Simpson and Kobe Tucker will round out your top 10, and it's Misty Grimsley, Cody Grimsley in the 6th row of the grid to start things off this afternoon. Well, then it'll be Josh Trappett and Angus Bayliss, Emily Cacaviello, followed by Jackson Cooper, Sam Simpson, Liam Iodonis, William Wallace and Joshua Shelley will be the 20th car out in the 927. So we've got a full field of Hyundai Excels later on this afternoon. It's a qualifying session. We'll have a look at some of the Hi-Tec Girls highlights. A bit of car left out there on the field, and some people had to do some steering around those things that were left out there by a couple of our cars. Here we go, Matthew Boylett, though. He didn't start things off as quick as Patterson, but once he got the temperature into those tyres, we saw him keep improving lap after lap. A couple of hairy moments out there for some of our drivers, as we did see them go off the track. Even after the race, and we actually saw cars go off the track as well. Here we go. This is a big moment, though, in the number 3 there as Tucker went off the track at turn number 2, really, really wide, held onto that. Luckily, didn't get sucked into those big tyres up there, because that can always cause a fair bit of damage on the side, and we know they'll be busy down there as we see the man of steel up on your screen. It is time. The TFH Hire TA2 muscle cars framed by Hi-Tec Steel Framing, not far from coming out to get their first qualifying session. Of course, we are going to be looking for our Kubota Super 6, who will have a shootout a little bit later. I'm going to be joined in the commentary box very shortly by Matty Mack, who is a former TA2 racer, likes to get behind the wheel. I'm sure the seat of his TA2 car is still warm from last season, but look, he's up here in the commentary this weekend, and we're going to have a little bit of a talk about things that are happening. So while we line these cars up and get them out on track, we're going to have a little bit of talk. Of course, we caught up with Graham Cheney and, of course, his teammate, Matty Mack. They have been doing a fantastic job at the AEST, Paul Hadley. And what I like about Paul, as I saw it in Sydney, is just his improvement he does race after race after race. We can see he's probably been very nice, starting to get more aggressive. Let's catch up with them and see what they're looking forward out of this weekend.
25 years ago now, this was former screws, which is a super bike to this day. And a few years, there was a few hits and a few screws, and decided to give that away.
So my specialty was like super motard. Did a bit of racing, did a season in America, did a world round, raced at KTM, Husqvarna. Bikes is a bit more of an adrenaline rush, just for the fact that if you come off, it's going to hurt. Where a car, it still gives you a buzz for sure.
I got into TA2. Initially I started looking for a TCM car, and I rang up about an old ad. Yeah, Pete Robinson explained everything how it was, and I thought, oh, it sounds alright, so something a bit different, you know, something there that was kicking off. And I liked the style of the cars, and halfway through 19, bought a TA2 car, and here we are.
First got started with car racing just with Paul Hadley. He started doing TA2. He said, oh, you just got to come and do this, it's an awesome category. I said, oh, I've never done car racing, so give it a go, and yeah, loving it.
When I first started off, and I think Graham come to one of the meetings and he's looking, and I know it's the type of racing for the years and what he's been. So I said, oh, another car, and here we are.
I wouldn't be doing it without Paul Hadley. It's the only thing to do. Got the young bloke in 86s. He's doing XLs here this weekend.
And we've got young Tyler coming through too next year or so as well. So it'll be a three-car team.
Awesome team to be with.
Sort of better with the cars. I'm understanding it better than myself. We're always improving every meet, and only slight changes, but they all start adding up.
We've all learnt a lot about these cars now. We've been doing it for a fair few years now. There is a lot of little things to learn about them just to get that little bit out of it.
To do a good lap time, really. You can't sort of have an easy couple of corners. It's just going to cost you going over the line.
I was a bit nervous to start with. Everyone says it's a bit tight, but I think it's an awesome track. Love it.
Not that much thing with Camaro. I thought, look at the Camaro. Yeah, I've been a Ford man before and probably more of a shed man, so hence why we went to Camaros.
They're pretty awesome, like they're loud. Everyone in Australia loves a V8.
They're a car you've got to drive. They're a physical car.
They move around, they're fast. We're doing very quick times. I love the sound of them and they look awesome.
Yeah, as I'm learning to drive cars better, I'm sort of driving it a bit easier as well.
We're both racers, so Paul's pretty good. He wants me to do just as well as he is, so yeah, we're always egging each other on and pushing each other, so it's good.
Well, here we are, the TFA tyre TA2 muscle car framed by Hi-Tec steel frame. Matty, Matt, couple of characters, aren't they? Graham and Paul, they're fantastic when you go down and have a chat with them in the pits.
I think they're a great example of what most of the folks are like in TA2. You know, very family orientated, really giving of their time, and they just come racing as a family, and they come for fun, really. I mean, don't for 1 second think that Graham Chaney is not super competitive. And as we've said before, Paul Hadley, his results, his trajectory of improvement has been outstanding this year. Probably started in the Trans-Tasman Challenge when over in New Zealand. I was talking to him a little earlier in the pits, Matty. He just said it started to click. He's been able to make that transition from bikes to cars, and it's really starting to get through his brain and what he needs to do. So I'll be looking for a pretty good result from Paul Hadley this weekend. I mean, he had a fantastic first round at Sydney Motorsport Park. Currently, in fact, sitting in P5 in the championship. And that's weird at the moment with this championship as we're looking on at an onboard the Hi-Tec Oils Camaro with Brad Gardner. Boy, didn't he have a shocking first round.
Look, brand new car came out. Yeah. There's always some minor things to iron out sometimes, but the pace he had, though, going through some of those races, we saw him work his way back through the field and he was making positions. Unfortunately, incident in the final race in the final corner took him out of contention there for a podium.
It did, and he's, as Wade Orger would say, the guy that normally steps in and does the commentary for this category, if he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck at all, because last year he had 9 DNFs, unfortunately. So poor old Brad Gardner from South Australia, he is a hot shoe. He's picked up the partnership with Hi-Tec Oils as we start to ramp up the pace here. Just going through turn 11 and 12, you can see how much the cars move. He'll be looking for a really, really strong round this round. He's got it, because if he doesn't, with 6 rounds in the championship, he's going to be behind the 8 ball.
You think a bit of confidence will be coming into him, though? They're obviously a pretty big rebuild on the car, but they were actually up here last weekend doing some testing. So you've got to come into this weekend a little bit of confidence and time. You're back in the seat of the car, feeling comfortable, out on the track as well, so they would have made some minor adjustments there. He was beating Josh Haynes in practice a little bit earlier until Haynes, just sort of made a few minor adjustments there and got him in the final practice sessions yesterday. So I think this is going to be pretty exciting. Let's ride on board with Brad Gardner.
As we're down through turn 4, now coming up to turn 5 into turn 6 and now 7. We call this T-junction. It's a place where you can really lose a lot of time or you can make a lot of time. You sweep through 7 down through 8 and 9. This is the fastest part of the circuit here. You really know you're alive when you come through here. A little lift and then back onto the throttle now as he comes through. You've got to get the car square under brakes here, down to second, get it turned in right across the entry curve there. And this is the fun bit. You're up to 3rd gear and then brake, turn the car in, 1 curve, let it bounce, 2nd curve, let it bounce. Now drive it out to the outside and then bring it across to either the middle or the left-hand side. Got to be careful there, because if you step a little bit over on the right-hand side and you get a big oversteer moment, it can fire you straight back into the wall. So this circuit, it's probably a little bit like the red-headed stepchild sometimes, We've got Lakeside, we've got Queensland Raceway, and Morgan Park probably doesn't get the notoriety that it deserves, but this is an unreal circuit. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the television coverage, but a great race circuit has consequences if you get it wrong. And here at Morgan Park, there is some jeopardy here. If you go off the circuit here, you'll see as we ride on board with Mark Crutcher, just slowing up here, might just be looking for a little bit of track space. If you go off here, you will actually, it's not a problem to make the wall. If it's wet here, and we're looking at a little bit of wet weather later on, you can make the wall here. So you've got to be very, very, very careful here. It's a circuit that requires a lot of cooperation between cars that are passing and being passed. If you get past here and you've got the pace and you've got the talent, you can get back. This is a place where you've got probably at least 4 or 5 passing opportunities. So the boys right now will just be starting to get a little bit of temperature up into their tyres. When we go at qualifying in TA2, really you want to do it within 3 laps. As Brad Gartner goes to the top on a 15.6, you want to do it in 3 laps. You don't want to use all the meat and goodness out of those Hoosier tyres. So you go out, you do a warm-up. Phil Curtis on screen there. Oh, Jet Johnson very sideways coming through that sweeper that we just talked about before up onto the main straight. Of course, he's filling in for Michael Coulter. We say a big hello to Michael Coulter in Sydney. He's got some family business to take care of this weekend. So our 22 champion in Jet Johnson obviously competes in Dunlop Super 2 with AIM Motorsport. He's a local Queensland kid, so he's stepped into the car. But what I was saying about the tyres, you've got 2 to 3 laps. You really don't want to do more than 3, maybe 4 laps in qualifying. Of course, we've got the Kubota Super 6 shootout a little bit later on in the afternoon, but you can take a lot of meat out of your tyres. And here's that evidence. Brad Gartner currently on top, as I say, at a 15.6 after 3 laps. And where is he? He's in the pits.
And 800ths of a second over Josh Haynes. Now, isn't it great to see this man back, Mark Crutcher? That was part of that final lap incident where we saw that car was very short, wasn't it? The front of that car has basically been rebuilt from the window forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was such a difficult thing to see, because I think when we go racing in these cars, and we see the safety of race cars all around the world now, we don't often see people get hurt. And Mark Crutcher, who is the life and soul of TA2, right? He is, everybody loves him, no matter who you are, whether you're a driver or a team manager or even category manager, everyone loves Mark Crutcher. He had a big accident. He got involved in that Brad Gartner, Todd Hazelwood accident at Sydney Motorsport Park. That car was heavily damaged. More importantly, he got a little bit of damage as well. He was in hospital overnight. But a testament to the safety of the car, it was a big hit. And Mark was a little bit hurt, but he was out the next day. And that car is the car that was crashed at SMP. The guys at PBR have done an incredible job getting that car back together as we watch Aiden Jackson in the 81, the Dodge Challenger. He came on pretty strong last year. He's with Dream Racing, so he's gone from running his own team now across to Dream Racing, who also run in the other category that these cars run in, which is Trans Am, obviously. So I'd be looking for a pretty good result from Hayden Jackson.
Did start out well from did I think he had to get all of his bad luck done in the first round of the season, you know, because they had exhaust falling off, they had some issues with some of the drive shaft stuff.
Yep.
But look, they managed to keep getting the car back out. They did a fantastic job as a team to keep getting that car back out each race, but he's got to get some luck this week, because again, if he wants to stay in the championship fight, which we saw him at the end of last year, just teetering on the edge of those podiums, he needs to get it here together at Morgan Park Raceway.
Loves the wet conditions. So if it does rain here this weekend, which it is forecast to do, that may play into his hands as we watch Danny Reedy now head down towards the Turn 8 sweeper and into Turn 9. He's part of what I would call the Speedway Brigade. When we look at Danny Reedy and Domain Ramsey, those guys that come from a Speedway background, just starting to get their head around now the circuit racing fraternity. But I spoke to both of the boys yesterday and they said this is just great fun. In Speedway, and I didn't know this, you actually can't take your kids into the pit lane. It's hard to take your family into pit lane because the Speedway cars don't have clutches and they can go out of control. Anyway, with circuit racing, it's all family, right? So they've brought their kids and they've brought their parents and they've brought their friends, and they're having a great time. So Danny Reedy on screen, currently in 10th position. Obviously, the main focus for everyone right now is that top 6. We're going to have the Kubota top 6 a little bit later on this afternoon. And right now, as the cars start to peel in off pit lane, Brad Gartner in P1 holding steady on that 15.6. Josh Haynes in P2. Boy, how tight is that? 0.8 of a second to a 15.7. Graham Chaney, we talked about earlier, earlier. Jet Johnson is the one I want to talk about. When he practiced yesterday, remembering that he's not familiar with this car, he's currently up to 4th position. So he's gone from TA2 up to Super 3, then Super 2, and these cars drive very, very differently, Matty. So that's a fantastic result currently. P4 for Jet, only about, 2 seconds off the pace at this stage. Hayden Jackson in P5 and Connor Roberts, one of our rookies in the class this year, currently in 6th. What I want to watch, Matty, is P7 right now, Mark Crutcher. If he doesn't make it into this Kubota Super 6 a little bit later on, he is going to be dirty. We're watching him on screen right now in the Crutcher Developments Mustang.
You never know what Crutcher's going to do either. We have seen him pull some incredible laps out. we've seen him turn the car around as well, but we've seen him pull some incredible laps at times, and he's got a green sector 1, so he's done a bit of a run this time.
So we saw him in the pits just a little bit earlier. What I would say he was doing was bleeding down the tyres. He'd gone out in his first run as we ride on board with Mark Crutcher into what we call T-junction now. It runs out to the right-hand side. You've got to get on that throttle nice and early and drive it straight down through the sweep here into 4th gear now. Get the nose pointed through. Start to look up to your apex, a little lift, get the nose in, then back to throttle, drive it through the corner. Get it squared up under brakes, it'll squirm, back to second, nose down over the apex, and then onto throttle nice and early up through there. He's done a second green sector, so a personal best for Mark Crutcher as we go into the first of the S's, then the second. Get it over the ripple strip, drive it out to the right-hand side. Clean gear shift into 4th gear. He's looking for the shift lights. Will this pop him up? And it does to P4 at a 17.62. That puts Crutcher well inside the top 6 for the Kubota Super 6. A little bit later, Connor Roberts now on the outside looking in. Domain Ramsey and Paul Hadley in 9th. Danny Reedy in 10th, and Steve Wilson having his first run in TA2 in 11th position. So your top 6 at the moment, Brad Gardner from Josh Haynes, Graham Cheney, Mark Crutcher with that heater lap, Jet Johnson in 5th, and Hayden Jackson in 6th. Now Haynes, looks like he's coming back out.
I've been watching the time come down on the qualifying. We're just over 4 minutes remaining. They're going to take a couple of minutes for an outlap, really. They want to get some temperature back in those tyres. So these are going to be final adjustments. They're only going to get 1 or 2 goes at this.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, they've come in, they've bled those tyre pressures down a little bit to pick up that extra grip if you need it. I mean, I've got to tell you, if Josh Haynes didn't think that he would be able to pick up that 0.8 of a second, he wouldn't be going back out. So I'll tell you now that they've dropped that tyre pressure. He's going to come out and have a couple of runs. Brad Gardner remains in pit lane, as does Graham Cheney. Mark Crutcher still, I think he's on a slowdown now, a lap now, so he'll be able to come through. But Danny Reedy on screen right now, currently in 10th position as Hayden Jackson crosses the line as well. Hayden is in 6th position, as we mentioned, so he is on the bubble now to get the Kubota Super 6 a little bit later on. But as I said to you at the start of all of this, Matty, if you haven't got it by now, it's going to be pretty hard to get.
What I like about this is, when you look at the times, 4th place to 7th place, there is just over 1/10 of a second.
Yeah,
but that is incredibly close for qualifying.
And that's an example of what these cars are like. You know, whether you have the Challenger body or the Mustang body or the Camaro body, you know, fill your boots, do whatever you want to do, whatever looks good to your own eyeballs, get in there and have a crack. The cars are so close. They're meant to be close.
You're not using the P word, are you?
No, we never use that word. If you listen to the driver's seat, you'll know that I hate it. So, as we watch Hayden Jackson now come through the sweep. But this, you know you're alive when you come through here, because if you get this wrong, look at that wall to the left-hand side with a little big slide. It's pretty hairy inside the car when you do it, but it's not fast. So if you're going sideways, you're not going forward. So, and another big oversteer slide. So that car is not happy in the rear at the moment, whether they need to drop the rear just a little bit. And again over that.
He's been doing quite a few laps though.
And they say that will take a lot of the meat out of the tyres. One of the other things you've got to watch here, Matty, when you race is on the back side of the curbs, they're quite serrated. So if you do run a curb way too much, you might actually slice up the inside shoulder of the tyre. And the first time you know about it is when you go to the brakes and you have a crack around. So Josh Haynes on screen right now, the Hertog Steel Mustang, all the way from New South Wales. He's put a purple sector in. Here he goes, folks. He's on a heater lap. Will he be able to put a second purple sector? Of course, purple sectors means he's done the fastest of any car out there, so they've bled those tyres down. Brad Gardner currently sits at a 15.6. Josh Haynes at a 15.7, 1/10 of a second just behind. What can he do in the second sector here as he heads down through the sweeper? This is where the time sector pops up, and he's done a second purple sector. Could this be our Kubota pole sitter, provisional pole sitter for the Kubota Super 6 just a little bit later on? He's clean through there into the first of the S's, onto the brakes. Look at it slide through the corner. Oh, he's picked up that ripple strip on the inside as he heads now down the main straight after 2 purples. Will he go to the top provisionally for pole? No, he did not.
Lost a bit of time.
He lost a little bit of time.
He actually hasn't improved on his last one. He's 300ths of a second off his last time.
There you go. So it was all in that right-left S's there where the car was picked up, and that shows you how close it is. As Jet Johnson in the Terps Tippers Mustang gets up it, starts to slide, and another big slide coming off there. As he comes down, he's currently in 6th position, so he will more than likely make it in, and pops up to P3. What a ripper from Jet Johnson. He is now part of the conversation for this round, ladies and gentlemen, having never driven this car, sat in it yesterday for a couple of practice sessions, and he's put it up to P3.
Well, he's got to have the forearms must be pumped after that. We've seen him sliding that car, the opposite lock that he's screwed into that as well. But here's a newcomer to the TA2 Muscle Car Series as well, Connor Roberts.
Yep.
He's doing a fantastic job. I know he's got the pace there, doesn't he? It's a big step to come up into these big cars. He's been racing something a lot smaller previously to this.
He has, but and with these cars, he's doing a fantastic job, right? So he's in 7th position at the moment, right behind the vastly experienced Mark Crutcher. These cars take a little while to get used to it. If you just think back to that, what we were just watching with Connor Roberts there, wasn't overly aggressive through those curbs. So it's that fine balance, Matty. You can't go too hard over it because you'll have a Josh Haynes moment where you don't pick up the time. But then if you're aggressive enough, like a Jet Johnson, you'll actually come through and pick up some time. So these guys are going to learn. We're on screen now with Jet in the Terps Tippers.
I think he'd be pretty comfortable that he's in that Super 6 shootout.
I think he'd be very happy. I think personally he'd be very happy with that. And yeah, he's comfortably in at the moment. Jackson's in the pits, Cheney's in the pits, and Gartner's in the pits. Josh Haynes is also now in the pits, and we know that Jet Johnson's coming in. So you would imagine now, as the timers tick down, that we look at the top 6 that will go through to the Kubota Super 6 a little bit later this afternoon. Brad Gartner on pole position from Josh Haynes, Jet Johnson, Hayden Jackson, Graham Cheney in the PhD Developments Camaro from Mark Crutcher. Fantastic job from Connor Roberts to be in 7th. Demain Ramsey, Paul Hadley, Danny Reedy and Steve Wilson in your top 11.
Well, there we go. Let's head down to Jamie McCarthy, though, down in the pit lane.
Yeah, Brad Gartner going fastest. A little bit of gamesmanship going on down here, guys. Brad just went out really late in the run and they just put a brand new tyre set on, but it was just a scrub session. Didn't seem to think they got the gain. I'll just see if I can pop in here and grab Brad quickly. Brad, P1, but Josh sort of went and had a go with you, but it wasn't quite enough, so you're solidly in the 6.
Yeah, we got, obviously the work's not done yet. The Hi-Tec Oil 22 is obviously fast. We put it together, but we just got to really go out there in the fast 6 and do it again.
And just a tyre scrub there, mate, at the end. The boys were saying you didn't get the gain on a brand new tyre at the start of that one?
Yeah, you just never know, do you? Better just have it up your sleeve.
Yeah. We talk about gamesmanship, boys. Yeah, it's alive and kicking down here on pit lane.
Well, Jamie, I can give you a little peek behind the curtain there. Fresh green tyres at Morgan Park in Warwick don't work. They are best when they're scrubbed. So what Brad's done out there has been very, very clever. He's provisionally at the top there from Josh Haynes and Jet Johnson in P3, Hayden Jackson in P4, P5 is Graham Cheney and Mark Crutcher will all compete for the Kubota Super 6 later on. Connor Roberts in 7th, Demain Ramsey in 8th, 9th, Paul Hadley in the PhD Developments Camaro, Danny Reedy in 10th, part of the Speedway gang, and in 11th is Steve Wilson having his first run in TA2. And I've got to say, Matty, for my first commentary gig outside the race car, that sucked. I want to get my car back out on the track and I want to get racing again.
Well, you know, I was going to say, well, let's have a look at the Hi-Tec Oils highlights now. Mark Crutcher, we saw him. He waited for some room out there, didn't he? He got out of a few laps, but they got that in the sweet spot for that car when he wanted to get aggressive and take it out. Then we saw him really improve for that moment, didn't we? He got himself in the Super 6.
7th to 3rd after they bled down those tyres. Hayden Jackson as well. As we said, his form is coming on pretty strong. watch for the wet. If we get wet this afternoon, Hayden Jackson will be very, very strong. He loves the wet. We think back to Calder last year. He was fantastic. This is probably the story for me. Jet Johnson and the Turf Stiffers Mustang, after coming out of Super 2, having not driven for this team and this car before, jumps in, immediately goes B3. What you just saw there on the replay, that was sweet as a biscuit. If you can just get the car sliding through there without upsetting the shocks, you'll do a really good time, as we see the Herzog Steel entry of Josh Haynes, and on his heater lap right at the end there, trying to jump across the top of Brad Gardner. He just didn't get those S's right. If we watch the replay all the way through, you'll see how ugly that car gets. But here's your provisional pole sitter. He went out and scrubbed a set of greens. No doubt he'll bolt those on for the Super 6 run a little bit later on.
Well, these are Hi-Tec Oil's highlights of the TFH Hire TA2 muscle car, framed by Hi-Tec Steel Framing qualifying session. Of course, we will have our live TV coverage coming your way for the Kubota Super 6 shootout at 1:15 this afternoon. So make sure you tune into all the channels for that one. It's going to be a fantastic shootout because Brad Gardner, the man of steel, Josh Haynes, they're going to go at it. But Jet Johnson, don't count him out, because there'll be some adjustments, I think, being made down in those bits. I'm sure him and his crew will bring a lot of experience to the Coulter team as well, and you might see that car just maybe go a little bit faster in that one.
You think he'll get better, right? Like, yeah, he's only been in it for 2 sessions, and he is he was our 2022 champion, so he knows his way around Morgan Park, he knows his way around a TA2 car, and that showed in that qualifying session. So can't wait for the Kubota Super 6 at, what'd you say, 1:15 or 1:30?
1:15 this afternoon, so it'll be the opening part of our coverage here on KO and Fox Sports later on this afternoon, so can't wait for that one. Of course, our Formula RX-8, all thanks to TFH Hire. They're all over motorsport at the moment. They are about to get underway with their race number 1. 10 laps from these exciting little, I don't want to call them buzz boxes, but they are. We hear them buzzing around, but they put some fantastic racing on. 20 cars here this morning. Steve Devjack alongside Brock Payne. Now, this is going to be a fantastic 2 cars that anything could happen going into turn number 1 between these two. Incredible races. And then in the back, we've got Jeff Connell, who's come out of the sim racing. He's on row number 2 in 4th position. So sim racer to race car driver. This is his first real big race. And I've got to say, we talk about buzz boxes, we talk about TA2s, supercars and all that kind of stuff. The reality is, if you're out there racing, it's a whole lot better than just sitting back and watching it on television. So there are a lot of people who talk to me about only doing prod sports now in my little MX-5 instead of my TA2 car. It beats sitting on the couch, Matty, and it also beats the best day you'll ever have in a hire go-kart. So you can imagine they're not all that quick, and you have a lot of fun in those. So whether it's an RX-8 or a Hyundai, a prod sports car, a TA2 or a supercar, as long as you're out there having a blast, that's all that matters. Well, let's have a look how it's all going to grid up here. You can see for race number 1, Brock Payne and Steve Devjack will start on the front row, then Jeff Connell, Rob Bowden on the second row. Back to Justin Lewis and Ivan Taggiato in the third row. Then it's Thomas Derwin, who went off the track a little bit early but managed to hold on to 7th alongside Terry Lewis. Ben Silvestro and Canellis will be on the 5th row as we get a standing start for the TFH Hire Formula RX-8 as they join us for the 2024 season of the Hi-Tec Oils Super Series. And we line up our final car in the background. Rob Bowden was super reliable when it came to round number 1, which didn't see him win all the races, but he was always there on a podium step, and he went away with the most points out of round number 1. We'll have to wait and see exactly what he can do this weekend, because he's got some tough challenges there in the background. And we'll wait and see as we get underway. Steve Devjack in the 71 will get an early lead and looks slot straight behind him. Brock Payne goes, you know what? We don't want to see any carnage here. We just need to slot into our spots. Justin Lewis on the outside trying to hold on to 4th. Jeff Connell will go back a little bit, and that's where we're going to see the experience, isn't it, when it comes to real-life racing. Jamie joins me back in the commentary box, mate. Get a load of this. The RX-8s are back out on track.
There was a little bit of a bizarre start there. I think it was the 75 of Shad Hassan, who was actually down on the grass, like almost someone semi-stalled in front of him, and he's just turned hard right off the start. I don't know if it was a jump or anything, but yeah, it was a little bit untidy off the race start, but we'll just get this first lap and sorted and see how things sort of settle down.
Well, yeah, first lap sorted. I like that with these cars. I mean, I think we've got some incredible categories throughout the Hi-Tec Oil Super Series, and this is one of them. Look at him. Payne really pushing the car, going the outer limits. And like we said, you've got to be careful on the outside of those ripple strips. We sort of touched on it when it comes to the TA2 qualifying, is serrated edge on the outside. there's a possibility of cutting a tyre.
Well, up through the S's especially, so you don't want to be dragging that inside shoulder of the tyre too far over that, and you can see that just to the right of that onboard shot with Connell, that there's not a lot of backfill off the backside. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's the same for everyone. So if you exceed that and you puncture a tyre, well, it's your own deal.
Steve Devjack was super quick when it came to our racing in Sydney Motorsport Park at round number 1. Unfortunately, had a moment there which saw him get a small penalty pushed back down the field, which probably why we don't see him leading the championship, to be quite honest, because he did some incredible racing there. So this might be a incredible round, and we'll have to wait and see how the weather though, because that can change a driver, can't it? Someone who's very quick in the dry isn't always quick in the wet.
Well, having just come off pit lane, there was just the littlest sprinkle, just the odd little spit here and there. So it is in the atmosphere at the moment.
Tinkering around.
Yeah, it's a lot more humid than it was earlier on this morning. So there may be a little bit of moisture just floating around, but there was definitely some spots on pit lane during that TA2 qualifying session.
Oh, there we go. A bit of a dive there under brakes. Looks like might get the move done. And that is the 73 car. Further down the field there as they make some moves here. I just want to watch Jeff Connell doing a fantastic job. Thomas Derwent, the 42 now, didn't start well for him in qualifying, but looks like he's got his head around that. Terry Lewis, a lot of smoke just came into that car under deceleration though, which might be all right. As long as we don't see smoke under acceleration, the seals are normally not too bad.
I'm not a rotary expert, but I think on the downshifts and getting back on, it's just unburnt fuel typically, because they run so much fuel through these things. They're cool little race cars, and it's great to see big numbers around Australia with the RX-8s.
There we go. Look at Steve Devjack. Definitely a standout now as they come up to race speed at 1:27.24 as the fastest lap. And right behind him, Brock Payne. So those two have started to edge out at the moment. I think they're going to just leave themselves open to the rest of the field as we keep looking back. I mean, then we can look back to Derwent, Lewis, Bantiato. They're sort of all packed into a little three-way battle as well. It's a little bit further back.
You got two of our sim racers inside the top 10. Some great onboard shots there with Connell chasing down Justin Lewis. And this round, corresponding round last year, was the making of Justin Lewis. He really, really dominated here and then went on a bit of a charge through the back end of the championship. So Justin obviously likes this place, and whatever they did with either him or the car, from a tuning point of view, it definitely worked, because just something like a light switch went on inside Justin's head and he went, I can actually be fast here.
Yeah, I think also a little bit of confidence, isn't it, when you're racing? If you can have a good round there and get a few podiums under your belt, you feel like you found your place. This racing was his first year of racing last year.
This place is a confidence track too, definitely. There are some places around this track where you've really got to back yourself. If you go in half-hearted, it kills your lap and it kills your lap speed. Nice smooth wheel work there on board with Connell in the 5th position. Bit of a dent in the door already. I don't know if that was from the first round of the championship or during practice yesterday.
It's a blank canvas for anyone looking to help a young fella out. I'll tell you what, all down the side of that car. Now, he's following Justin Lewis. Probably not a bad thing if you're not an experienced racer. Just having a moment there. He's still in 5th position, so he's just sitting behind Lewis, following him through, getting a feel for it. I mean, we are only on lap 4 out of 10.
Yeah, Lewis, however, the gap already after lap 4, Lewis back in 4th is nearly 9 seconds down on the race leader. Like, Devjack is flying out front, but Payne's going with him. So first and second is there's about a half a second between them, and that is very, very close. But then you've got a 3-odd second gap back to 3rd with Bowden in the 3rd position in the 15. A little bit of contact there. I think the 77 and the 49 trading a little bit of paint, a little bit of Rubbins racing. Wasn't too bad.
Yeah, Jacob Barr, Liam Hall. They're going to look at them. They're having a fantastic time. Now, they've got to watch out behind them, though, because I'm just trying to pick the number of the car who's behind them. Oh, that looks like it might be Dominic Caminiti.
So these guys are having a whale of a time, and they're disputing 17, 18 and 19th position.
There's always races throughout the field when it comes to the Formula RX-8s.
Canales and the familiar hotel-sponsored machine.
Yeah, chasing down Silvestro there in the 85 just in front. Now, this one's another little battle. And Terry Lewis, we've seen him go up and down races. He can be very quick in parts, and then I think he tries to overdrive the car sometimes just a little bit. But on the back of him, he needs to watch out, because Thomas Derwent and Ivan are right there, ready to go and pounce on any mistake that he could possibly make. Obviously, Ivan in the team car of Lewis, really. Like, there's something that he's trying out this year. There's been a lot of opportunities for people who want to get involved in the Formula RX-8 series to be able to lease a car or get involved. So there's been a few of those cars throughout the pack where you can see the familiar team colours.
Quite different lines through 1 on the approach to 2. And again, what these shots, if you're not here at the track, that transition from 1 to 2 tightens up remarkably from 1. So it's a very, very tricky part of the racetrack. Oh, as the 89 had a half look down the inside. Ivan, I'm not even going with the surname.
Vantagiato.
That'll do. Close enough.
Unfortunately, I've got to do a small accent to get it out.
Back on board with Connell, still chasing down Lewis, and they continue to lose time to the leaders. The gap back to Lewis in 4th is out to 11 plus seconds, which is unusual. But out in front, Devjak and Payne are absolutely going to war, and there is still only half a second in that gap, the battle for the race lead. Devjak with the fastest lap of the race at a 27.2. Payne's just done a 27.3, so he's only a 10th. Here we go.
A little bit of dirt there as he went wide. He's pushing
This is
hard.
the battle for the lead.
Could it be a battle of tyres at the end of this weekend? I mean, as the races go down, the tyre, we don't often see them put new rubber on throughout the weekend. It's normally on at the start of the weekend.
Well, they'll be limited to how many tyres they are allowed to run, so they're all on the spec RX-8 Nankang tyre. But that is definitely on like Donkey Kong for the race lead. And Payne, again, like we saw in qualifying a little bit earlier, he's one of those drivers that does tend to explore the limits of the racetrack, and he's using every bit of little part of it. And Devjak actually did that with a big curve run there down the bottom of the circuit off the runoff of 3. Battles further back, headed there by Hassan in the 75.
Stacey Vickers thought, you know what, I'm going to have a look on the inside of Collier here just for a moment. What's going to get it done?
That paint job on Vickers' car is familiar for me. So coming from New Zealand, one of the Aussie boys actually in Targa, New Zealand, ran a BMW in those exact colours. So it was, I think it replicates one of the art cars, possibly one of the BMW factory art cars going way back in the day, but it is definitely very, very distinctive.
Issues there, and that looks like
Collier.
Thomas. Oh, sorry, Collier in there this weekend.
In the 23, it's one of the TFH hire cars.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That car has slowed right down, unfortunately. We'll
Back
get on board
with Connell. So Lewis has just got a little bit of separation now, but again, that gap continues to open. They're 13, nearly 14 seconds out of the race lead. So both of these drivers will have a little bit of work to do. The car's probably not to their liking as much as the leaders, who continue to lap on pretty similar lap times. So Lewis's best lap has been a 29.2. He's actually 2 seconds slower than Devjak's fastest lap of the race. That's a big gap.
Especially for Lewis, who was quick in round number 1 as well. He didn't race in every round. He went from back of the pack and worked his way through. So he's getting familiar with the brown dirt here at the moment.
He tried to live on the outside there and into one, and then getting it stopped and getting it turned were 2 different things, and it didn't quite make it up in the end.
Made it a little bit easier for Ivan to get past, though. He just gave him his moment. He didn't get off. You know, that's throwing some racecraft there.
Like
to know to go wide, get around, take the opportunity.
Like Connell, this is Ivan's second race meeting.
With the Formula RX-8 it is, I think he's done a little bit more on track work, though. He's had a little bit more time. I'll have a look at the replay here, though.
So Derwin on the outside in the 42. Now, that's always going to be a tough place to try and survive on the run up to 1 and get it turned in. And going out on the dirt didn't help. And then he went, oh, hang on, turn 2.
Yeah. A lot of actually pulled up quite well.
He made his own turn. He tried to turn left at 2 when you turn right. So that's not ideal. This is the battle for the lead. The rotary motion 71 of Devjak, chased by Payne in the TFH 33.6 of a second again at the line. So there's nothing in it.
So it looks like we head into our final lap of this race. Brock Payne, can he throw anything more at it? I mean, he's probably losing in sections. He's losing a 1/10 of a second, then he's gaining it. I mean, he's obviously strong through that first sector. We see the times go down between them, the gap times.
Lewis
comes back.
Lewis is trying hard under brakes. You can just see the back of the car moving around as Connell's now right back on the back bumper. There was a little bit of separation over the far side of the circuit on the previous lap by probably 6 car lengths, but Connell's now all over the back. of Lewis down into turn number 3.
So Lewis having to get a little bit defensive here, which he hasn't had to do. I feel like Connells has showed him a little bit of respect there and not followed him around, but trying to pinpoint those lines if he comes to terms with the RX-8.
Connell's thing had a little bit of underbody or the exhaust sort of hanging down underneath the back of the car on that rearward shot. Bowden all by himself in the 3rd position in the 15. He's had a solid run, but a lonely run because he's 7 seconds behind these two, still fighting for the lead. But Devjack looks like he's got the advantage with not too much to go left in this race.
Yeah, Brock Payne's going to put a big one here as they come through the flip-flops. The final little S there turns 11 and 12 and they head onto the main straight. I don't think he's going to be able to get
he's trying to get a run. He's trying to get a run. He's going to run out of real estate, but he had a bit of a run going up the hill.
Have a look at this. 17 hundredths of a second is the difference.
Oh, well, that was Lewis sideways, and he was sideways again, and he's still sideways.
Connell's going to get a run here. There's something on the inside.
There's some debris on the inside of the track, so Lewis has got it wrong in the last couple of corners through the S's. And the 4, definitely something hanging down underneath the 4.
You want to say caved under pressure from Connell?
Not me.
Oh, Justin will love it. These two having a good too. The teammates there of Lewis and Van Targiato. They've had a great little fight there. Unfortunately for Thomas Derwent, that little mistake there pushed him back 1 position. And
Silvestro into 9th, Canellis in 10th in the number 22. Some great racing right through this field. Connell will be smiling. He'll be having a big run on his. And Justin being Justin, he will have enjoyed that fight.
That would have been very respectful there. And the funny thing is, we haven't mentioned him, but Steve Devjack in first, Brock Payne. Rob Bowden's just running his own little race. He's not quite with the leaders, but he's in front of the other little pack we have between Jeff Connell and Justin Lewis. Gets himself another podium, and that will help him in his championship fight because he's leading the points coming into this round. We'll get back to Justin Lewis, Terry Lewis, Ivan Van Targiato, Thomas Derwent, Ben Silvestro and Jamie Canellis will round out our top 10, followed by Arten Filippi, Shad Hassan, Stacey Vickers, Brett Thompson, Jason Geller, Dominic Caminetti, Jacob Marr, Liam Hall, Dominic Graziani and Derek Black. Rounds out our
pronunciation right of that last one.
Black.
You got that? Just check.
Hopefully that's how it's pronounced. Let's have a look at some of our... Here you go, the highlights. We'll check out the start again. And it is, he's moving around. That's the number 75, Shad Hassan. So,
he's actually gone clear from the right side of the track to the left. He was actually all 4 wheels off the race start. That's what I saw off the race start that just looked really, really odd.
There was some big moments here for the brand new entry, Jeff Connolly into the Formula RX-8s. And
this was a race
got him
battle
on the start. And look, he stayed with him.
Yeah, they had a fantastic battle right throughout the race, and that gap pretty much didn't change.
Brock Payne did everything he could, couldn't he, to try and catch Steve Devjack?
Yeah, he was using bits of the racetrack that he probably shouldn't be, but at the end, he was within that car length, so bring on race number 2.
I look at Ron Bowden in the background. He probably had the best seat, I think, for this battle in front.
Oh, he'll be happy with a 3rd, and here's the run to the line, and there was nothing in it. I reckon another lap, Payne might have had an opportunity to have a crack. But the 71 of Devjack taking out the victory here at Morgan Park. Race 1 for the Formula RX-8.
Well, the breeze is still up there and you can hear it. We are waiting to find out as the forecast for today hasn't been great. However, it has been holding out for us at the moment. Still plenty of clouds up in the sky here at Morgan Park Raceway. We'll wait and see if anything does unfold this afternoon. Our Formula V is not too far away from getting out on track, and you can see there the man himself, the 2023 TA2 Muscle Car Champion. He is coming out in a Formula V this time, Dylan Thomas, and we had a little bit of a chat with him earlier. It was great to see him, and he's going to challenge himself by trying to take on a different category each round, by the looks of it. And these little things, I mean, they're a different little car, aren't they, from what we used to see, a Volkswagen engine. Most of them are 1600cc they're allowed to go to. I think
the last time I commentated Formula V in New Zealand, and they call them Formula First over there, Shane Van Gisbergen was the Speed Sports Scholarship winner. That's how far back that goes. And Shane actually ran in Formula First over in New Zealand. So, 1600cc Volkswagen. They run that unique H-beam front axle on the cars. And the emphasis is on racecraft, all right? It's all about the draft. And here at Morgan Park Raceway, you will see a train of them coming up the hill. So we've got a little bit of debris out there on the racetrack. I didn't realise Matty Mack was a Formula V stalwart?
I think he's shared the seat of quite a few people. Great to see people coming out here. One of the beautiful things about Morgan Park Raceway is that you can actually go on the bridge, can't you, and walk across to the inside of the track, which is, we don't see that at too many racetracks around Australia where you can be on the inside.
That's a great viewing position. From the pits, it's not ideal, but from the pits, if you walk back down towards the bottom of the circuit, towards turn 9 and 10 in the S's, there's a little grandstand there that gives you fantastic viewing of the S's as they come up off the hill from turn number 9. And you can see the differing lines and the different approaches and how the different cars go through the S's, or as you call them, Matty Cav, the flip-flops.
Well, it's a name that was been told by me by many people who come here on a regular basis. That seems to be the local name or the going name.
I heard someone called it the bus stop.
Could be.
Because it's not so much of a stop, really. Like watching some of the cars yesterday in practice.
Slide.
Yeah, it's a little lift in and get it, like with a TA2 car, the approach is a lot faster. So I think there's definitely
like
a brake application.
Exactly like that.
He's describing it beautifully. There's a brake application and then you flow through. With the RX-8s and some of the other class cars I was watching yesterday from that position, it's a lift, get it turned and pointed and flow through. And again, the different types of cars, a Legend to a Formula V to a Queensland production car to a replica Tourer and even a TA2, the approaches are all different through that part of the race circuit. But with that little grandstand down there, it's actually really, really cool viewing.
Well, we got to Rod and Kathy Lisson, who own and bring the truck all around Australia, support the Formula Vs, and they come from Western Australia as well. So they do a fair bit of travel. And I was talking to them last night.
That's further away than New Zealand.
I know. They put 4 cars in the truck, and then they've got a trailer that also takes 4 cars. So they can transport 8 of these cars around the country. I mean, big haul to keep going back and forth. I know they share some of the driving with some of the other people, so there'll be a couple that bring the truck over, and then someone else might bring the truck back.
That's commitment.
Incredible commitment to get these cars out there. Fantastic
So
race.
how long have these cars been around? Like, again, I'm relating back to my experience back in New Zealand with, it was originally called Formula V, they renamed it Formula First. So very, very similar cars. I think a lot of the cars over there tend to run the standard Volkswagen wheels rather than the aftermarket wheels that we see here in Australia. But there are some very, very swoopy body designs with some of these Australian-made Formula Vs over the cars on the other side of the Tasman. And a very, very good lineup. And a lot of motor racing drivers across the world, because this class also raced in the US, all right? A lot of very, very good motor racing drivers have progressed out of karts, and if they want to sort of maintain that open wheel thing, into Formula Vs, Formula Ford, and so on and so on. So yeah, that list would be huge. I already talked about Shane van Gisbergen in New Zealand, current Formula E Jaguar drivers Nick Cassidy and Mitch Evans. Both raced Formula Vs in New Zealand, and again, the list here in Australia would be pretty impressive.
It definitely says
like definitely 50 years plus. In fact, it'd be more than that. I think I heard Dylan when Matty Mack interviewed him a little bit earlier on. He was saying 65 years, which actually wouldn't be too far away.
No, it is around that. Yeah.
Wow.
Over 60 years of racing these Formula Vs.
You wouldn't have thought there was a lot of these Type 4 1600 engines left.
Well, when you talk to them, they say things like the cranks and all that, they're all reproduction now. So you're going to get those parts to keep these motors, because obviously Volkswagen engine, and you know, that's a culture in its own, isn't it, Volkswagens? But it's the manifolds, the carbies, things like that bolt onto them, where, you know, and they talk about the different years and the different manifolds, and we're talking like 1 horsepower difference maybe. They're the little things that people have gone through the wrecking yards. Absolutely none left. But I think a lot of the things too with this is, when you have a look at the chassis design, is if they do have an impact and break something, they're actually quite easy to repair a section.
Well, they don't weigh anything for a start.
Well, with the driver, they're just over 500 kilos.
Oh, okay, it's actually heavier than I thought.
Depending on the driver.
So they're all running.
So with you and me, they could be a little bit more over 500 kilos.
I am.
With some people will be on the edge of 500 kilos.
That's a nice way of saying generously proportioned. Thank you, Matt. So they're all running on a spec Dunlop tyre, so that's double duty if it does rain. Look at the different body profiles from that over to the top shot. Dylan Thomas, the last time we saw him, he was winning a TA2 championship down in Victoria at the end of last year. And he's got a long history of racing these types of cars. So you know, to try and do each round in a different race car this season with the Hi-Tec Super Series is going to be pretty cool to watch.
Well, just over 4 weeks ago, he was racing a TO2 muscle car in Sydney with the number 1 on the side. So.
Did you go from one extreme to the other?
Well, I think, you know, if you cut about a third of the car up, it's about the same way. Let's get the start underway. This is race number 1 here for the Formula Vs.
Oh, Dylan will be happy with that start. John Forsh would have been proud of that start. He's absolutely gapped them on the run down to turn number 1.
He very modest, isn't he? He said, I don't think I'll be the fastest. He said, we go out wide. I think we keep them on those tyres aren't as wide as what we see on some of the other categories. So they generally get through there okay as they come through turn number 3. Who's definitely not the brakes?
It's definitely not a big contact patch on the road. But again, we talk about, there's a big lock up there for the 71. That's Rod Lisson, the 2010 Sabre. I think the Sabre chassis were a New Zealand-made one, unless it's an Australian version. But Sabre definitely in the New Zealand market with the Formula Firsts over there. So really looking forward to this battle because this becomes up the front straight a drafting battle from the bottom side of the circuit with Formula Vs, and that's the cool part of the sport. And we've got some young drivers. The youngest driver that we've got out there is just 14 years of age. And
look at this, already an overtaking manoeuvre there by Kinsella, who's the 4-time national champion.
Yeah, there's some championships.
You'd expect him probably be a favourite for this weekend as well. So
pretty sure
Kinsella was so much.
Kinsella was the pole sitter, so qualified number 1 in the session earlier on this morning. Right, so this is where you just regroup and you're trying to pick where the car is faster than the others. Dylan's just lost that little bit of draft on the run past the start-finish line for the first lap of 10. And that's the 16, so that's, I'm pretty sure, down through the S's on the run up the hill by the looks of it. Saw a little bit of that yesterday in practice, where some of the drivers were definitely getting the approach to the S's or the flip-flop or the bus stop, whatever we want to call it down there, incorrectly.
Can we get the theme music going, the bus stop theme music?
16, Matthew Harriott. So here's a replay. Here's the big lock-up from the 71. It locked up the right front. He couldn't get it turned on the left front, and he's gone gardening out there. Not the place to be, but the Dunlops should be able to handle it.
At this point, Dylan Thomas is still leading, but he's had a fair bit of attack there. I mean, look at the 78 there of Reynolds. I mean, he's got 4 national titles as well.
That car
won all the races at last year's national round.
He won all of the races
at the national round.
National.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a very distinctive car as he's going to get an inside run and through to the lead. Look at the differing body styles. That's a lot longer in the front and bodywork-wise, a lot more streamlined than some of the other cars. It's quite a distinctive-looking car. And from my understanding, having a quick chat to some of the teams this morning, I believe only a couple of those have actually ever been made.
The Checkmate chassis.
The Checkmate chassis, there you go.
Well, it says it all, doesn't it?
Here we go,
challenge on. Dylan's getting a front row seat. He's got to watch out, though, because he's got Casely right behind in the number 7 as well.
That was tight. Kinsella didn't get a great run through 1. Say that 3 times fast.
So Dave Casely right behind Dylan Thomas from WA. This is 4 cars now that are going to be fighting to get on the podium, and not too far behind you can see McDonald and Westerhout.
Here's your top 6, a little bit of a gap back here. This should be Siebel in the number 80 as this battle now becomes a 4-way battle for the lead with the 7 of Casely. DMC. Oh, that was 30. That was Kinsella. That was Kinsella in the 35. Now, was there a touch there? Maybe. He was leading. They definitely made some gains. Oh, there was a 7.
Thomas ain't going to make this easy.
The
surely.
7 is he's spilling Dylan Thomas's mirrors, if nothing else. So what happened with Kinsella? Was there contact?
Let's have a look at the Hi-Tec.
This might tell us.
Replay.
Oh, not a lot.
Was he loose before there was contact made?
Hard to see by that, but it just looked like there was a little interlocking of the wheels there and the 35 rotated.
We're not in race control, and that's for someone else to make a decision on. So we'll wait and see if we hear some of that. Oh, Dylan Thomas, he's just dropped off the pace for a second there. Might have had a moment there, and he waves him through.
Well, okay, that's a carding deal. So Dylan's gone, yeah, okay, go through, I'm going to latch onto you, or he's got a problem. You go through, you're faster than me, and I'll try and go with you to get back to the front is usually the goal. There was a little puff of smoke just on the down change up into 1-2. So Thomas now back into the 5th position.
So Michael Wester in the 38. Now he had some brake problems yesterday. It looks like they've got that sorted because the car is getting around.
Nice pass to the 3. Nice pass.
And those two together are actually Queensland based and probably the 2 fastest Queensland drivers we've got here this weekend.
Yeah, it's probably a circuit that they would be used to more so than some of the Western Australian teams and from down south. So I think you're saying Dylan Thomas is Sydney based?
Yes.
He'll be used to the weather.
He's not used to the car. It's a lot lighter than what he's been driving.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And with about 400 odd there. I mean, what sort of horsepower are these things putting out?
I wouldn't expect a 1600, a stock 1600 Volkswagen engine to be doing a huge amount. It's got to be very similar to when you see XLs where people are going through the wrecking yards looking for manifolds and things that add 1 horsepower, and that's like 2% of your horsepower.
Well, I think an XL is probably 90 to 100, and I don't want to belittle these wonderful little Volkswagens, but yeah, it's not a lot.
No.
But as we're seeing here, how competitive is this?
It's 500 kilos.
So where's the 38 come from? A fair way back, and now we got them side by side, 2 deep, battling for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Oh, there was definitely contact there in the 38. Didn't go around, but the 7 did, and he's trying to take out one of our Hi-Tec signs.
Oh, we start the bingo.
And Dylan Thomas goes from 5th to 3rd in one foul swoop. So definitely a little bit of contact there as the cars were bouncing around, dancing around under brakes on the approach to 1. And that's now put a very, very different face on this race.
Well, Dylan Thomas might hold himself in for a podium here. See the number 69 up on our screen.
2nd to the Westerhout.
Yeah. So it'll be another Queensland-based car and looking to be under a little bit of fire in the background.
Callum Lamont in the distinctive yellow machine. Right, let's see what happens here. So the 38 of Casely's on the outside. Wow. Was there contact?
Oh, maybe the exhaust touched the front of the... I don't know if it's actually going to cause the car in front, or is it just... I'm not quite sure on the air of these cars, but that's going to maybe take a little bit away, wash a little bit of that away. Wouldn't be a lot of aero on them.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Again, I think if you're going to try and survive on the outside into turn number 1, that's going to be a really, really tough pass to make and stick, especially on the approach to 2, which tightens up. 30 out there on shot. That's a beautifully presented little car. Yep, Mark Moran. And
Queenslanders.
We've got a brother and sister team out there on debut this weekend. 14 and 16 years of age in the awesome colours. All right, there's again, look at those front profiles. 2 very, very different looking race cars bodywork wise. Mark Moran, and so that's a 1987 Elfin. Well, the Elfin chassis is synonymous in Australia. Formula 5000, Formula Ford, obviously Formula V. So that car dates back to 1987. Matt, were you born?
Yes, I was.
Just
shows the test of time. I was young. Let's put it that way. Well, I was young in 87. I was fair bit of curve there for Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, definitely do not want to get on the curves on these cars.
Is he looking for work to do between rounds? Is he like, well, it's not busy enough?
Being so light and spindly, you don't want to be going bashing the curbs because it'll be knocking the wheel alignment out, and you run the risk of even hurting the shocks on the style of car. So you want to keep off the curves. So here's Casella trying to come back in the 35. So he's still in the 5th position, and Casely's rejoined on track in the 6th position. So, like, it's hurt them, definitely track position-wise, but they are still up inside the top 6. Oh, the 7 runs off track up the hill out of the S's. And again, you do not want to do that too often.
Definitely not. All right, we'll wait as they come into the turn number 1. They've got to set themselves up, and they come into that. It's a couple of different ways. They're going to take turn 2 very wide on the outer ripple, not too wide. 3 here as you come over. It's pretty much a blind crest as you go round.
The biggest similarity between these cars and, say, karts is if you mess up, you do not have the horsepower to just drive out of it, change your line. If you get sideways or you don't get the corner right, it just sucks all the exit speed out of it, and you basically spend the next probably 2 laps trying to get the momentum back up and gain all that lost ground of the car in front of you. So very, very similar to karting. The main differences being these cars have suspension, much bigger wheels, a little bit bigger than a kart, not that much.
No.
And like some of the early kart engines, air-cooled.
Yes, that's right. Well, we don't have the radiators in it. There's nothing. The little air-cooled engine at the back. Very simple, I think it is. It's not an overcomplicated car. You don't need to make it overcomplicated. It looks like someone's lost their nose. I'll be in for a bit of a nose job next weekend. Let's have a look at the Hi-Tec Oils replay. Oh, it's already just come off on its own, it looks a bit.
Yeah, that
maybe grabbed something under the car, and that's
11 of Listen, another one of the Sabre chassis. Just a couple of laps left to go here.
Got themselves into a rhythm now, haven't they? You start to see them just start to spread out a little bit now, and I think tones down. We'll wait for the last couple of laps, because this is where we could see some of those moments that people want to take a dive and take a risk, possibly to gain a position.
So Reynolds still in control out in front by about 4.7 seconds. Kinsella in the 35 set the fastest lap in the race at 1:26.82. Only 3/10 faster than the race leader, so we know Kinsella's got the pace. We know he's got the experience. I think 4 national championships with his name on it. Definitely some smoke coming from the CXC number 68 of Dylan Thomas.
As long as it's just under deceleration, I think we're fine. We'll watch this very closely. Dylan Thomas and that 68 number. Still going all right. There's something out there on track. Might be a little bit of rubbish going across in the background, or tear off maybe. McDonald in front, only 1.2 seconds, the difference between these two. It looks like we do have a final lap.
Last lap board is out for the 78 of Daniel Reynolds, 2007 built Checkmate chassis, JP02, so that'll be the second, I think, of the two in existence. The other one's parked away in someone's garage on display, and the checkered flag is out, and it will be the 78 with the victory. 51 in second, Alex McDonald. Now, sort of Alex came into the mix late, taking advantage of some of the other drivers getting together throughout the race, and picks up a very, very good second place finish. And Dylan Thomas was as far back as 5th, and he gets a podium. A couple of little smoky puffs going on there in the car, so they might have a little bit of work to do. Or is that just a Volkswagen thing?
Could be a Volkswagen thing, much like we see from the Formula RX-8s, maybe under deceleration when they gear down very aggressively.
Matthew Harriott in the number 16. He will complete the top 10 in his car, and that is a Polar chassis.
Listen, looks like he'll go without his nose on. We'll get there in 11th. Westerhout in the 69 car.
Oh, he's definitely got some smoke. He's got some smoke going on too there with the 11.
Lamont just in the background crosses the line too. Just waiting to see. We did see one of these earlier when it came to the qualifying session actually lose a gearbox there, and that dropped a fair bit of oil out on track. We had a bit of a clean-up. Let's have a look at the Formula V. So race number 1, the result here at the Hi-Tec Oil Super Series. Daniel Reynolds to get to the number 1 position. Alex McDonald in second, and Dylan Thomas will hold on to 3rd. Then it goes back to Michael Westerhout and Michael Kinsella for 4th and 5th. David Casely in 6th, Oliver Siebel in 7th, and Rod Lisson, Mark Moran and Matthew Harriott will round out our top 10 in the Formula Vs. It's back to Kathy Lisson, Brian Westerhout, Callum Lamont, Steve Butcher, Yamuna Sternbeck, and then Madhava Sternbeck in 15th and 16th. The brother-sister combination, 14 and 16.
Yep, and do all of the work on their own race cars themselves. Members of the Warwick Kart Club, so their background is kart sport here in Queensland.
Well, it's great to see them. I'm sure they'll be a shining light when it comes to the future of Formula V. It's a great little category.
Met them this morning, and both working on their cars. Fantastic to see.
Let's have a look at some of the Hi-Tec Oils highlights from race number 1. And well, Dylan Thomas had no dramas getting the start underway, didn't he? And we thought for a moment there he might try and hold them out, but it didn't take too long as he got into the turn number 1 nice. And we thought, can he hold on? Because we've got some hard charges going through this class, and it wasn't long before we saw the 78 there of Reynolds make his way through. There was a big moment here for the 71.
Rod Lisson
as he went.
Didn't listen.
He didn't listen to what they said and went off the track for a moment there. Dylan Thomas had to cave down to probably the two national title holders there that went out front. Then, of course, he spun those. The number 35 there, unfortunately, of Michael Kinsella, which put him back a few positions, and he had to try and fight his way back through the field. So that was unfortunate for him. Otherwise, we might have seen that battle for number 1.
This is the other
Keep
one.
going.
Oh, yeah, it was probably the nose and maybe the right rear with the contact, and it was just a slight change of line, and that was awkward more than anything. No real intent, and they're just battling for position, but typically side by side into one, as we know, does not work, and losing your nose cone doesn't work either. Changing the aerodynamics is what I was trying to go for there.
For the final couple of laps of the race, but Reynolds took the race lead early on and decided to bring this first race home here at Morgan Park Raceway.
Unusual to see a gap like that at the end of one of these races. Typically, you don't want to be leading on the last lap if you're doing the freight train thing, but he sort of ran away and hid and took advantage of other people getting into each other.
Well, you never know what's going to happen. Race number 2, of course, comes your way for the Formula V's a little bit later on today. We'll see that one come out around about 2:30 this afternoon. Our live TV coverage is great scenes here at Morgan Park Raceway as we are on board with our Hyundai V-Line, V-Series. What is it, the V-Line? It's they've been a fantastic supporter of the Super Series this year, giving us our safety car to get around here. We see it at obviously at our City Motorsport Park. We'll see it down at Winter Motor Raceway. Up here this weekend at Morgan Park Raceway, though, as we'll just go around and have a quick check of this fantastic facility to make sure we don't have any debris. Might be picking up a nose cone or two down there as well. Our Queensland production cars are lined up and not too far away. And look, there's plenty going on here when it comes to Queensland production cars. Predominantly, we do see a lot of the V8 style, I suppose, familiar looking cars from the supercar world. So we'll get our Hyundai safety car back in as it makes its way off the track. At the moment, it's a fantastic track here at Morgan Park.
Oh, look at the drive.
We look at 12 corners to get around. It's just under 3 kilometres. But there's some really tricky moments throughout here. I think turn number 1 and 2, where it's almost like a double apex. It's 2 corners joined together, really, and we see some people slow down, want to get really slow into turn number 1 and try and get the extra speed. Other people carry a lot of speed into turn number 1 and lose it in the middle. So we see those different lines from the cars they get around here. I really like the back section. Probably actually down into 4 as you come around 3, the blind corner over the crest, down to 4 is a good overtaking area. But really, it's that turn 9, that real long right-hander sweeper where you're just giving the nose maybe a dab of brake just to bring the nose down and settle the car, and feathering the throttle through there before you go down to 10, where you really got to brake hard. And then there's that risky flip-flop section as you go over the ripple strips where you can cut a tyre also there. So there's lots of technical points throughout this track.
Oh, it's definitely a challenge. Definitely a challenge. But yeah, like all the drivers I've spoken to over the weekend really, really enjoy the racetrack. It's a little bit on the narrow side for some of the bigger classes, but again, we keep saying it's the same for everyone, and you've just got to do a better job than the other driver to get a result. So this is the Queensland production cars. Now this is a qualifying session. They have not yet qualified, so we've already seen some race action. It's a brand new BMW there, car number 86, Stuart Gamble. That's a 2023 BMW M2, sponsored by Golden Loans now. So first time I've seen that car out there with that distinctive, big, wide BMW. Steve Pilkington there in the Class D, number 78, Adam Air. BRZ? Do we say BRZ or BRZ in Australia, Matt? I'm
BRZ.
Z, BR go BRZ. The Class D battle is going to be awesome. The 86 Toyotas and the lone BRZ of Steve Pilkington, they were very, very close yesterday in practice. Really fun cars to drive around this place. But one of the things that will come out of this weekend with the classes that we've got as support with the TA2 is the diversity. And the diversity of categories here in the class cars in the production series. You've got Class A, A1, I think A2. Same with B1, B2 with the different, so turbocharging versus how many cylinders and all that sort of stuff. Then you go to Class C for some of the sort of the mid-sized vehicles. Class D for the smaller ones like the 86s and the BRZs. And there's even a Class E. I think in the Bathurst 6 Hour there was a 1998 Toyota Camry that's raced in just about every event, I think running in Class C for basically a standard production passenger car.
Well, I believe what they call it is it's the production specification vehicles. So it's basically effectively a very close specification of how they roll off the showroom floor. Throw a roll cage in, your safety equipment, upgrade some brakes, you know, all those sorts of things, suspension and tyres, and you're going racing. We're not seeing a fully built race car here. We're seeing something that you can buy off the showroom with safety things added, some slight performance upgrades, which you can do to a street car.
And some very, very quick race cars.
And
like,
some very grippy tyres.
I remember Roman Miller from last year with this number 28 machine. It's a beautiful BMW. 2018 M2 competition, LKV flooring. So Roman's actually one of the series sponsors as well as part of Queensland production. In 23, I think they had 60 different entries across the championship. So you have all the different class and category champions. There's an overall champion as part of it as well. And again, you've got everything from a 5-cylinder turbocharged Audi there with Dan Natoli, a Subaru, you know, the Subaru WRXs. We've got Toyota 86s, BRZs. There's a Holden Commodore out there. There's the BMWs, Mitsubishi Evos. It just keeps on going and going with a big field of pretty close to 20 cars here this weekend.
Well, while they're out there getting this qualifying done, we're going to quickly head down to the pits and catch up with Matty Mack.
I'm down in pit lane with Jet Johnson. Jet, a big step from Super 2 down now to TA2. That was a pretty good qualifying session. You're in the Kubota Super 6.
Yeah, I'm actually really stoked with that. I sort of surprised myself a bit when I got told I was P3, but yeah, we went out for the first run, and I don't know, it was like the track was a bit cold and couldn't quite get the most out of my lap. Came in, repressured, went back out, and apparently went quick enough to go top 3, so I still haven't lost it. But yeah, it turns out from yesterday and the first run, I just had to grow a bit of a pair and have a bit of a go, so that was good fun.
Are you finding the transition a challenge, or is it a bit like jumping into an old lounge chair and finding a bit of comfort?
It's funny, the way I described it to everyone yesterday was the feeling of jumping back into a TA2. Driving it felt like someone was describing to me what a TA2 should do. It was really weird. In my head, it wasn't what I'm used to a TA2 feeling like, because then obviously with the Super 2, Super 3s, a lot more aero, tyres are totally different. Everything's totally different in the cars. They're a $600,000 supercar, and then I'm hopping back into a TA2. But I'm loving it so far. I mean, the cars are awesome. I forgot how much they move around. I was jumping on the brakes in first practice, and she's moving all over the track. And yeah, I was having a good laugh there. It was awesome fun.
Good luck in the Kubota Super 6.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Do you get the feeling he's trying to match Grandad for funny saying?
For charisma?
Growing a pair? Yeah. Yeah, Dick definitely had some stunners back in the day.
Well, what I do love, though, is Jet's got a massive smile on his face. Now, 2022 champion for the TA2 muscle car. He's back just for this weekend to help out the Coulters there, stepping in for Michael. And, look, big smile on his face, and we can't wait for that Kubota Super 6 to be coming away a bit after 1 p.m. this afternoon on the live coverage. Still qualifying session out there at the moment for our Queensland production cars. Just having a look overall, it looks like it's going to be Ryan Miller. No surprise there, Class X. Won here last year as well.
How's Murray Dowsett in the 11 Toyota 86 P3 with a 28 flat? Wow. That is super, super quick for a car that definitely does not have the horsepower of this machine. A 2018
it might be a slight
M2 competition.
Might be a slight difference in horsepower.
Wow, but that's a pretty impressive lap. So Miller's fastest at the moment at a 23.82. Here's the Symes Subaru looking to get a lap back, and goes P3 with a 26.99 in the Class A1 Subaru WRX. So here's one of the Class C vehicles we were talking about. That's the number 87, Rob O'Connor, 2006 BMW 130i.
I think that's the great thing, though, because you've got the different classes. You're out there with faster cars. So if you are quick, maybe you're a really good driver up against someone from a faster car category. It probably gives you someone to race against, but also you're racing cars within your horsepower range, really out there in your car setup.
I would say Miller's probably actually already parked it. He's 3 seconds quicker than anyone, all right? He's in a Class X BMW there. The window net's going to come down. Does not need to exceed the tyre life of the thing. He's banked in a good lap. He doesn't need to just go run around and round and round for the sake of it. because you're basically
He's
going
done,
to keep
laps, he's done laps here before. He's not trying to get his feel for the place.
I'm pretty sure you're going to keep those tyres on for the rest of the round, so the rest of the weekend. So the less laps you can do, we saw it in TO2 with Brad Gardner. He only did one lap in that first part of qualifying, then put on a new set and did a scrub. So his fastest qualifying time was one lap, whereas Josh Haynes, I think, went out and ran at least 4.
Yes.
So tyre life at the end of the weekend.
Exactly. And this is the game you play, right? It's do you want to win the weekend, or do you want to go out and be the number 1 qualifier? And can you do all of it? I mean, if you can do all of it, it's great. Sometimes you got to try and make everything last.
Dan Tolley's just gone P5 in that 5-cylinder turbocharged Class A1 Audi TT. Dan's done a lot of motor racing over a lot of years in a lot of different categories. Good to see him back. They've had some problems with that car. So this is a Class D Toyota 86 and a Class C BMW with Steve Pilkington back there in another Class D entry. That's the BRZ up against the 86s. AJ Geely going through. So the fastest of the Ds actually... Oh, Geely's just gone and dropped in a 27.39. Murray Dowsett 27.85. And then you go with the 98 of Ryan King, Nick Windsor and Steve Pilkington, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 in Class D. Another Class C car, this is 123. Caitlin Navin, 2012 Volkswagen Sirocco. Now, Caitlin had a big moment. One of the BMWs actually split an oil line coming up the hill, and the Sirocco was the first one to go through it and exited stage right. All we saw from pit lane was this huge enveloping cloud of smoke as the Sirocco was rotating through all of the oil.
Patrick Navin just goes in for a little bit of a adjustment on the Volkswagen Sirocco. Yeah, MRPS Automotive entry. He'll rejoin us out on track. So there, Murray Dowsett, the number 11 at the moment.
Talking to the team yesterday, their aim is to make this the fastest Toyota 86 in the country. No holds barred. They've contested the Bathurst 6 hour. A lot of these cars have contested the Bathurst 6 hour.
There's a lot of endurance racing, isn't it? And I mean, we look at the Queensland production car racing. Rounds 1 and 5 are sprint races, but rounds 2, 3 and 4 have some endurance racing put into them as well. And we did see that last year when we went up to the Festival of Speed. We did some night stuff up there where they were doing plenty of laps, a couple of 1 hour races up there. So they like to mix it up throughout the year, and it's definitely one of the categories you get a lot of seat time out there.
There's the diversity with Steve McHugh in the 43, the gold-coloured 2006 HSV VXR, or in Australian terms, a Holden Astra. So that car's running in Class C. There's another one of the fast-running BMWs. That's a B2 Class 15. I think it's going to be too hard to try and explain all of the different categories and classes in amongst the production cars, but it's based down to horsepower, weight, turbocharged, not turbocharged, etc., etc.
Well, while we're watching this qualifying session, Matty Mack's got someone down there in the pits for us.
Boys, I can tell you that whilst there might be multiple classes and there's turbos and non-turbos, normally aspirated, that sort of stuff, it's not going to matter fairly soon because as we stand in pit lane here right now, the rain has started. So drizzling at the moment, but as we watch the clouds and we watch the flags on pit straight here, the weather is starting to come. So keep an eye on it. The circuit there might get a little wild in a little while.
It's a couple of hours later than it was expected, but yeah, look, I was down there on pit lane with the TA2 qualifying session, and there was just the odd spit here and there, and it's
teasing us, isn't
definitely floating around, The number 19 machine, Richard Shinkfield. Now, Richard that was the BMW. That's a V8 powered car running in the A2 category. That had an oil line come adrift. That was the car that caused all the drama. There were a few rotating coming up the hill just before where they are now, and thankfully it didn't hurt the engine because it evacuated a lot of oil out of the V8 BMW.
Well, they're not going to have to worry about that at the moment, but there is something else coming down on the track. We just saw it on the windscreen there. So what are the changes that they're going to make now? I mean,
that on the fifth,
qualifying, we're well and truly in this qualifying session. There's only just over 2.5 minutes remaining, so you think most of them have probably banked a decent lap in at this point?
Yeah, no. But if you haven't done it by now,
what changes? Do you make some changes now? How much rain is actually hitting the track? Because we're not seeing on the outside of our window yet. Maybe it hasn't made it this far over.
Well, the major one, apart from probably softening the cars up, is tyre pressures. They run the same tyre, whether they're running in the wet or the dry. So I think most of the Class D drivers are running on the Yokohamas. Very, very good tyre. They're just going to basically put tyre pressure in them to deal with the wet. You wouldn't be at that stage right now. And again, in qualifying with a brand new set of tyres underneath the car, and you've got cars in this division running Nankangs, there's probably Federals, there's Yokohamas, there'll be all sorts of different tyres. I think it's pretty much open across, but there are tyres obviously that are faster than some of the others, i.e. the Yokohamas and Class D with the 86s and the BRZs. So yeah, if it goes full wet, it'll be pretty much, depending on the car, just going up in tyre pressure. So you're getting the not the block of the tyre in these cases, because they have quite a different pattern on the performance tyres, but up in the tyre pressure to deal with the wet conditions. But it's definitely not at that stage right now. So if you haven't got a lap bank now, I think you're going to be pretty hard to sort of top where you were at.
Well, Roman Miller still topping the charts there. He's already taken the car in. He doesn't need to worry too much at 123.829. It's only just over a minute left in this qualifying session, but Matty Mack, you're down there.
Boys, the rain is, whilst a little bit consistent, it's not too heavy at this stage. So if you've been out on a run at the moment and you've got heat in those tyres, it probably won't affect too much at this stage with just under a minute to go. The runs will have been done, but I reckon get much heavier than this for the next category on circuit. There'll be some grey matter being applied to what they're going to do with their tyres.
Matty, I'm feeling for you, mate, if you can hear me. I've got an umbrella in my car for you, buddy.
That's all right, mate. I've got a Kubota umbrella with me. No problem.
He's got some leftover merch from last year. He's not going without. Look, we can see the droplets now starting to appear on some of our cameras there as we change some shots around, and see the 86 coming down. Stuart Gamble there in the M2 BMW.
Aren't the BMW very, very different? They're very aggressively styled across the front now. That distinctive sort of twin insert grille is a lot wider and a lot deeper now on these race cars. Well, I'd say race cars. It started life as someone's road car.
But if you're going to buy one of these cars, are you buying it because it's just there to get you from A to B? I think you're buying because it's got a little bit of horsepower under the bonnet as well. Just you're making sure you get from A to B very quickly.
Well, it'd be interesting. I know the history on some of the cars where you're not just going to go turn a brand new $150,000 road car into a race car. Some of them do that, as the 86 is extending the track limits there. I know at least a couple of the Class D 86s and BRZs are actually explode damaged vehicles. So they're statutory write-offs.
Yeah.
You can't re-road register and things like that. So you can pick them up like that. But usually they're going, you rip the interiors out, put a roll cage in like you said before, and effectively they are the same car with the improvements and shocks and a brake upgrade as the road going versions.
Exactly what they're looking for to get out there when it comes to production car racing. Now, I worry with how wide he went on there, because that was one of the points we saw coming out of turn number 6. That's a sharp point. When you exceed the limits there, and that's where the ripple strips is, the serrated edge, where anything can happen. The checker flag comes out for this qualifying session now. Roman Miller, no surprise, he parked that nice and early. When you're 2.9 seconds faster than the rest of the field, probably not much point in pushing it, and he is our championship winner from this round last year, Roman Miller in the X-Class car.
Windscreen wipers on there for AJ Geely. He's going to top Class D in that battle with Murray Dowsett, and 7th position overall in a Class D Toyota 86. So in second will be the Class B1 Subaru of Trenton Allen. It's a 2003 Subaru WRX STI. Then you've got the number 69 Timothy McDonald BMW M240, the Corona Cabinets machine in P3. And Symes there in the number 93 2007 Mitsubishi Evo in P4.
Well, warm down lap now for our qualifying session for the Queensland Production Car Championships. It's round number 2 of the Hi-Tec Oils Super Series. They will come into pit lane. And next up, we will have our Queensland Touring Car Championships about to make their way out on track for their qualifying session. But let's see how the Queensland Production Cars, the end of their qualifying session. Roman Miller, like we spoke about, just under 3 seconds in front over Trenton Allen and Timothy McDonald, Greg Sims, Daniel Natoli, Stuart Gamble back in 6th, and AJ Geely in 7th, Murray Dowsett in 8th, Trent White, and then John McCleverty will round out the top 10 before we go back to Richard Sinkfield, Chris Begg, Patrick Navin, Nick Windsor, Ryan King, Steve Pilkington, Rob O'Connor, Lee Sands, Caitlin Navin and Steve McHugh down in 20th. A lot of difference there in the different categories of cars. That's where we see the time difference, don't we? Jamie, is it you can't look at it like when we see 3 seconds difference. They're a different category car.
Yeah, totally different.
So although they're racing overall for a race win, they're also racing for a win within their category out there. Let's have a look at the weather. We just were down with Matty Mack before saying the droplets are starting to fall from the sky, and you can see all the haze in the background there. So far we've missed it. It's gone around the outside of us.
Is that the dividing range? So that's sort of heading back direction-wise back to Brisbane. So it's just, it's hazy.
It's hazy out there at the moment. Let's have a look at some of the Hi-Tec oils. Highlights there, and for a moment, the number 86 of Stuart Gamble just exceeding a bit of the track limits there, and in this BMW. And all we thought for a moment there, maybe, but the tyre pressures look like it stayed up on there. The number 3 car, Daniel Natoli, and the Audi TTRS. All thanks to G-Technica Australia and ozauto.com.au.
They had some little issues in practice yesterday with some throttle positions, so they're fly-by-wire, so they're on the laptop trying to get that sorted out, and then a turbo pipe bombed off, and so they've had some little issues with that car, but a good qualifying effort here for the Queensland production cars.
Well, then it was the number 3 there of Greg Sims in the Mitsubishi Evo. See there, it was just slowing down at that point, looking for a moment, all thanks to Transport Museum. The BMWs, they're a common car, aren't they, in this production car series? They're quick out of the box.
Did you say a BMW was a common car?
Well,
Timothy McDonald in the
production racing. When you see a lot of it in production racing.
Popular car.
Popular car.
You're going to have all the BMW owners sending you texts.
I know, it's a popular car, I should say. That's a better word to use.
How dare you call my BMW common?
Oh, the Hi-Tec oils highlights for that qualifying session.
That's a cool shot.
Production cars.
Love the drone. Love the drone.
Having a look in the background once again. It's hazy.
Hey, Matt, how many different track layouts are there here at Morgan Park Raceway?
Oh, 5 or 6, I think, isn't there? 10, 11.
Yeah.
You ran out of fingers.
Do you know how I know that?
Because you've raced all of them?
No, it's on the sign as we come in the gate this morning.
Look, it's a great track. And you can have a look at it. I know
11 different track configurations, even basically down to that little oval through the centre. So, again, it's a track that's probably used during the week a little bit for driver training and things like that too. Similar to Queensland Raceway and a lot of the motor racing circuits around Australia now too. So, Queensland Touring Car Championship, and again, diversity. We've got all sorts of stuff out there. There's Escorts, there's BMWs, Commodores, and there will be some very, very quick cars. And again, they have a different class structure with A, B, C. So it'll be more or less 2 litre, 2.5, 2 litre to 2.5, 3 litre and above, 5 litre, and the open sort of category with some of the stroker engines and the bigger V8s. There are some very, very quick cars in a class that has been pretty stable and racing across the likes of Morgan Park, Lakeside and Queensland Raceway here in the Queensland area. How many we got with these? There's a few.
Yeah, we've got quite a few cars out here this weekend. Of course, a strong field last year here as well when we were here in 2023 as they were out there on track, and it's great to see the cars really make their way back out and a diversity of horsepower.
Yeah, look, as I said, everything from these 6-cylinder BMWs.
Oh, something went past it, had a bit of noise to it.
Dylan Pereira out here on screen in the number 16 BMW E36. So that sort of Super Tourer replica, that car, 6-cylinder powered, not the 4 like the Super Tourers. Pereira does a little bit of co-driving with AJ Gearley actually in their 86 with some of the endurance racing around the country. I'm pretty sure, I think they've done the Bathurst 6 hour together. Very, very well presented car, and you know it used to be a road car, Matt. And do you know why I know that?
Because you used to drive it?
It has a sunroof. 116. Ben Malpass in the 1999 BMW E36. Another Bastos touring car replica. That's a cool scheme. All right, here's one of the big Commodores we spoke about. 63 Trent Rump VT Commodore, sponsored by the Oil Baron Supply in Brusco. In behind him will be the Wadley Commodore. Warren Wadley in the number 51. So again, there's another replica, and we keep talking about replicas. There's the Brock Tirana replica running in QTCC. That's a cool-looking race car. I think that one of the highlights from last year here was that car facing the wrong direction on the run up into turn 1, coming off 2.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
There was a big moment there. We're knowing the price of a Tirana at the moment. That's a superannuation fund right there.
There are some beautiful
on wheels
ones here this weekend.
And some of these cars, you look at it and go, oh, when they turn around,
Yeah.
our hearts stop for a moment.
Yeah.
It was Rob Bellinger last year that took out this round of the racing as
in
well.
the BMW. So
Yeah.
currently in P2, very, very early in the qualifying session here. So look out for the number 72, one of the BMW M3s, which is a very, very popular car in this Queensland Touring Car Championship lineup. Now the Commodore just in back a shot there behind Pereira. Pereira's currently hasn't actually registered a time. Looking at timing, they might have a timing issue with that car with the transponder. This is the 72 of Ballinger. This car was very, very quick last year, and it screams.
It definitely has an aftermarket. They put some aftermarket components in that engine.
Jägermeister. There is a very.
We remember that car.
There's a colour scheme.
How come we remember that car? I don't know
I
why.
have just bought a plastic kit set of the Porsche 962 Jägermeister machine. That's a pretty cool, very, very distinctive colour. One of those things that will get you into a lot of trouble with excessive use.
Luke Beveridge just goes to the top of the charts in qualifying there with a 125.04 in the Commodore. All thanks to Auto Transport.
He had some problems here last year with front end geometry, and like the wheel was just about falling off it a couple of times. Listening to that car yesterday, I'm pretty sure it runs a sequential gearbox in it. If it doesn't, he's got the quickest gear change of anyone here at the venue this weekend. It's an impressive sounding machine.
I'm going to concur with you there that it's definitely got a sequential and side pipes. So I like
That's
how we've
why
added
it's
that
so
really.
loud. Yeah, exactly. There's a shot you don't see too often. 2 BMW sandwiching a beautiful Tirana. 23 is Simon Anthony's, another E36, a Visible Solutions car. 29, another Commodore, Peter Bray. So he's running in the Class A Commodore. His car care.
He's just gone to number 1.
Oh, Bray goes fastest. He's just jumped up 4 positions. So Bray with a 122.36. Ballinger second, Beveridge third, Malpass fourth in the Bastos 116. In P5 is the number 68.
Oh, up on 3 wheels for a moment there, the number 17, Mark Hyde, and the little Ford Escort. Well, thanks to performance numbers.
Now, we talk about value. Have you tried to buy a Ford Escort lately? Man, have they gone up in value.
Incredible.
Mark 1s and Mark 2s. Unbelievably, out of the UK, I believe, you can buy brand new Mark 1 and Mark 2 Escort shells now. And you talk about some of the rally car builds that those cars are involved in, and lots of zeros.
Yeah.
Like $300,000-$400,000 Mark 1 and Mark 2 Escort rally cars. Brand new.
Unbelievable, the popularity, really. It's a cult following. Think about back in the 70s and 80s.
And there'll be still a lot sitting around in garages in Australia that haven't been seen or heard of in 20 plus years. So Malpass currently 4th in the number 116 Bastos BMW. There's some great retro touring car liveries across this class.
I'm just having a look at the times. It sounds like, it looks like from here, from the timing screen, that the tyre temperatures are starting to come up. They're starting to find their sweet spot. I don't know how long it's going to stay. They're probably only going to get a couple of laps up there at the moment, but they are finding that sweet spot at the moment because we are seeing some incredible sector times up there.
Les Hannafin.
Yeah, Les Hannafin.
How cool's that? VK Commodore. Hanno's car care. Les has been a stalwart of the QTCC class, and just behind him is Darren Dakin in the Ultra 9 Commodore. Dakin's currently in P9, Hannafin in P10. Car 4 there. Gary Anger from memory, another E36 BMW.
Some changes going down in the pits at the moment.
Well, that's AJ Gilly. He's just got out of the 86 in the Queensland production cars, and he's helping his mate Pereira out doing some tyre pressures. So they'll just be dropping the tyre pressures down to where they know that the car's more comfortable. The more tyre pressure it grows up, it'll just lose drivability. So they're trying to keep that that tyre pressure in an optimum window that they would know would work with that particular car and tyre combination. And we are now showing the world exactly what AJ is bleeding those tyres to. Sorry if you were trying to keep that hidden, guys.
No one's watching. It's okay.
There are some games that go on down in the pit area, Matty, and I mean, you've been around motor racing for a long, long time. There are teams that will go out and have their tyre pressure gauges reset to read 5 psi more or less than what they should be. So if anyone is leaning over their shoulder, we'll go and try that. It's obviously working, and they're 5 psi out of the window because old mate's been playing games with tyre pressure gauges.
It's good to see people are still competitive. That's all.
Yes. Peter Bray goes fastest in the number 29 Hanno's car care Commodore. 122.36.
So he's improved on his time.
And he's actually topped all 3 sector splits. Pereira currently here in position 8. Alright, here's a replay coming up. Oh, that was the 116 Bastos BMW getting all out of shape in front of Ballinger.
That was a moment that could have been very, very ugly. That's caught that car very quickly.
That's
there.
2nd and 4th in the qualifying order at the moment. Ballinger in 2nd, Luke Beveridge in 3rd, Malpass 4th in the 116 machine. This is car 79.
Yeah, a Tour Vasolo.
A Tour Vasolo. And guess what?
94 BMW.
Another BMW.
A popular car.
Unique style. It's unique stone and tiled boutique. Ballinger's on a lap.
He's got to try and do this, doesn't he, if he wants to get pole position. He's going to be on the front row of the grid at this point.
Oh, Bray's just absolutely smashed the point with a 121.76 in the number 29 Commodore. Wow. That was in the 22s.
I thought our window of tyre life when it came to this qualifying session would only be a couple of laps, and maybe they're going to get a few more out of them.
So Darren Dakin there in the Commodore. Oh, the Escort's gone.
Doing its rally heritage.
A little bit of gardening.
Looks like the wheels, though, aren't wobbling, so that's a good start.
It was a good shot of the Watts linkage kit running in the back of that car, one of the many changes to make to these types of cars in the category. So the little Mark II's just limping around there at the moment. Mark Hyde, 1976 Ford Escort. Now, I know you weren't around in 1976, Cam.
No, wasn't even thought about.
I was 5. All right, 63.
Trent Rubb.
So
Holden Commodore, there's oil, Baron Supply and Brusso.
Some very, very well presented cars here. So what have we got left? 2.5 minutes left to go in the session. Qualifying for the Queensland Touring Car Championship, QTCC for short.
Or Bellinger.
So I think
they'll hunt this down. You can see how fast this BMW is.
Oh, he's dancing it around on brakes. So you go to the inside there, and that is a lot rougher on the inside.
It's not as smooth as the outside.
Yeah, definitely not.
I saw that with a lot of suspension when it came to the
So currently
Formula
P1
Vs.
is this car. 29 of Peter Bray, Holden Commodore. And he's 1.4 seconds quicker than any of the other Class A Commodores at the moment. Les Hannafin completing another lap, and he maintains 10th. Darren Dakin just in behind him on track in the number 99 Ultra 9 Commodore. He is in the 9th position, 128.58 and a 128.82. And those guys pit together, side by side, in the QTCC pit area.
Well, you can see it goes Bray, Ballinger, Beveridge, Malpass and James, our top 5 at the moment in qualifying with just over 1.5 minutes remaining here. Queensland Touring Car Championships. With still plenty. Oh, big moment there under Brace. You can see the back. Looked like they locked up. Wow. He was in the middle of the track there. That's what we say about it being a little bit bumpy there. Might have taken a little bit of pressure off the back tyres, a little bit of weight.
That was definitely, like, you get it wrong there and you go straight ahead. There's actually not a lot of room before you get into the sand at the end of turn number 1 there.
You know what we call that in drifting? Initiation. That was initiating into the corner.
Ballinger's just gone, he's done a PB at a 22.78, so he's gained some time, but he's still a second behind Bray. 74. That is Murray Kent, one of the earlier E30 Class BMWs running in Class C.
he's keeping to the Avalon rest of it.
Yeah.
Maybe we just saw him getting ready for some racecraft a little bit later. I better try the middle of the track and maybe the inside because, you know, at this point, there's a lot of people that probably set their times. I just watched Bellinger's just gone a little bit quicker there, a 122.7.
Well, that moment for Bellinger that we just watched, he actually PB'd the first sector, which was part of where he nearly went off. So Beveridge is definitely trying very, very hard. Here he is here in the big Commodore, the Auto Transport sponsored machine. And you can definitely hear that race car on track. Does he go quicker? Yeah, 124.58. Here's the number 5 Tirana. Michael Woodcroft. Sponsored by Brisbane Collision Centre. They've been a long-time supporter of the QTCC. That's a cool car. That is a very, very cool looking race car.
Well, let's have a look at it here. The 63.
Checkered flag about to come out to conclude qualifying for the QTCC.
Oh, he won't get another lap in for Trent Rubb. It looks like the 63 will have to be content with 12th position at the moment. Should everything stay the way it is, provisional 12th position. Well, BMW is getting across the line. Murray Kent there in the E30. Jason Pereira. Looks like at the moment Kent will go up a couple of positions into 10th. Which will actually push Trent Rubb down into 13th. Hannaford now in the 34 entry, so let's see where he ends up.
He jumped up to 9th. Yeah, actually Darren Dakin's dropped back to 12th. So Hannaford didn't improve on that last lap, but a 29.2 I think on the previous lap sees him up in P9 with Pereira in that 8th position. Beveridge still looks like he's on one last lap. See what he can do. He's up PB both first 2 splits. Improves to a 23.30 to maintain position 3.
Yeah, so that's got that down under 2 seconds, the difference between 3 and 1. Here we go. Peter Bray is going to be our number 1 qualifier here for the Queensland Touring Car Championships. Followed by Rob Bellinger in the BMW, then Lee Beveridge in the Commodore. Then he gets back to Ben Malpass, Hudson James, Nathan Marks, Warren Wadley, Dylan Pereira, Les Hannaford there in the Commodore, and Murray Kent in the BMW round out our top 10. It's back to Michael Woodcroft, Darren Dakin, Matt Corney, Trent Rubb, Dean Ward, Gary Anger, Simon Anthosis, Ettore Vasoli, and Mark Hyde in 19th position. Well, it's been a great morning of streaming here for round number 2 of the Hi-Tec Oils Super Series. Of course, we are going to shut down our live stream in just a moment because we are going to go live broadcast this afternoon from 1 p.m. local time here in Queensland on SBS and Fox Sports. Jamie, fantastic morning of qualifying. We've got the Kubota Super 6 shootout for the TO2 muscle car coming your way on the live coverage from 1 p.m. Do not miss it here in Warwick in Queensland. Beautiful. Just a couple of hours out of Brisbane at Morgan Park Raceway. It is a fantastic afternoon coming your way.
I just end off with rain, rain, go away.
Yeah, look at the haze in the background, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you join us at 1 p.m. on SBS and Fox Sports. We'll see you then.